week's on the radio. Shut up, it's Gaming Podcast Audio.
Welcome to the Big Week in Gaming podcast. And what do you know? It's been a big week in gaming. I'm integot for episode 52 on Sunday, the 11th of July, 2021. As always, I'm joined by the official P3 nominated and approved Xbox Hall of Famer and number one challenger to the mantle of the greatest Xbox RPG player in the world, Swinny.
Howdy.
And the game-loving, grind-hating, pretend-to-quit coffee-drinking, gamer, anti-gamer, and interrupter-in-chief, Mike.
Hi.
I thought you weren't going to say anything. I'm always like, this is an audio podcast. In this week's show, we'll be discussing Nintendo finally announcing the new Switch Pro OLED model, Assassin's Creed turning into a live service, and we celebrate 40 years of Donkey Kong Country with the final of our 5-part series on the Donkey Kong Country games with Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Mike, do you know what's something that's really easy?
Not Donkey Kong. That game is bloody hard.
No, the easiest thing
in the first world.
The easiest thing, Mr. Interrupter, is to follow us on socials by searching Bigwig Pod. That's BIGWIGPOD. Yes, Donkey Kong Country is tricky. We'll talk about that later in the show.
But Mike, you got one job. Spruik the socials.
Yeah.
He's our social meme lord, even though he doesn't post. Swinny, there's some exciting news that's coming up.
For next week. Yeah, so we have our 1-year anniversary of the Big Week in Gaming podcast.
That is insane to me, I have to say.
Yeah,
even bigger news than that.
No, let me just revel in this a bit more.
We did this for a year.
Stop
we did this for a year.
Mike.
It's on brand.
I just want to say it's kind of crazy because it feels like we started this like a couple of months ago.
Yeah, it does.
For me.
Yeah.
And it's like a year already. It's just wild. And as part of the the anniversary, so we're hoping to get a new logo and look and feel. So that really depends on
no pressure, Mike. No pressure.
Mike can pull that together.
We've got a good concept. It's actually, the scary thing is it's not that hard to execute on, really.
And
no,
Mike,
it's actually
we're not talking about some other Mike. We're talking about the one and only Mike.
The Mike in the middle.
So, and hopefully, as part of that, I've got a new setup. So hopefully, we can also do a bit of a potential Swinny face reveal.
Oh, maybe. Face reveal. This is going to rival when Dream has his face reveal.
I'll just, it'll just end up being a Dream mask when we take the Xbox down. I will miss my good old Sele Swinny 02 sound only thing. Maybe one day it will make a comeback after this week.
No, I'm sure it will. Maybe we can all just go to the consoles that we're shilling and we can just be representatives of that. Not that there's any console wars or anything like that. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I'm the same as you. I can't believe it's been a year. Like, maybe it's that I'm constantly changing the setup and what we do and how we do it.
It's a new show every week.
Yeah,
I'm just like showing more of Mike's frame. So
I'm being attacked.
So anyone who's like in the frame will get captured.
We did start this podcast in the middle of a time compression, so yeah.
That's true. It is a bit of a time warp. When I look back at when the Switch got released, it feels like the Switch was released, and we'll touch on the Switch pretty shortly, but like it felt like it was, 10 years ago now. It just feels like a different world. Like there was a revision of the Switch where it really actually shocked me to realize it was only like less than 2 years old, but it does actually feel like way longer. So yeah,
it really feels like the Final Fantasy VIII of podcasts. No one will get that who hasn't played Final Fantasy VIII.
No, I just laughed because Mike didn't say anything.
So I got distracted.
No corrections. There's been a lot of stuff in the community actually. Like a lot of the videos have been going off, which is pretty cool. A lot of subscribers on the podcast, which is always really cool. But yeah, Switty, what have you been playing this week?
So I've been playing, surprise, surprise, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Because it was mandated, so we had to play it.
We had to play it and finish it. So you finished it, yeah?
Well, let's talk about that when we get to the segment, maybe towards the end of the show.
Okay.
So we'll chat about that later. So I also started my PC playthrough of GreedFall. which is really, really cool. Been kind of, wanting to get to that for a while. So I'm a couple of hours into that, having good time. And also,
did you say PC playthrough?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so maybe I wasn't listening.
Let me finish, and it'll make more sense. And as part of that, I also completed the new Vespe Conspiracy DLC on the Xbox console before, and moved on to the PC. So if we get time, we'll talk about that later. But there's a lot going on when we're talking about Donkey Kong today, so we'll see if I get to that. The only other thing I just want to call out, obviously still checking to see if Borderlands 3 is going to get patched. That's going to be an ongoing thing. But also just some stuff that's on the horizon for me. I picked up quite a few new RPGs this week, or new for me. So Hellpoint, which looks pretty neat.
Oh, yeah.
Immortal Planet, and some games called Empire of Angels 4 and Banner of the Maid, which are some strategy JRPGs there. So looking forward to getting stuck into them, and eventually back to Mass Effect Legendary Edition and Final Fantasy 12 on the PC. So that's my week.
Nice. I'm playing Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze as well. I won't say if I finished it, just given your instructions. Huge shout out to you, Swinny. I don't give you enough love on the podcast, but I I'm reviewing Ender Lilies for Vux.net. And wow, I love that game. I'm so into it, man. I love my Metroidvanias. And now that, I'm sort of into Dark Souls a little bit, it's such a cool game. It's really captivating. It's very Moorish for me. So
and I think, yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, now that you've played through Dark Souls, when we kind of talk about those elements of a Souls-like, it's not just always the punishing difficulty. It's not always the specific. It's kind of, or the stamina bar, or it's, like the drip feeding the lore. It's the enemy placement. It's, kind of almost like the design mentality as opposed to the specific gameplay elements.
Yeah, and look, you're going to hate me not coining this term, but using this term. I'm going to say it's a Souls light in the review, because I think that probably accurately describes. It takes elements from the Souls kind of like mechanics, but there's big parts that it doesn't use that I feel like is quite integral to the core of a Souls game, with my experience of playing one.
No, I agree with that.
But yeah, and I won't go into it because, I think we'll cover it as a review next week. But I'm loving it. Yeah, no, it won't be any surprises. It would be a pretty good score. Very cool. I love these indies that come along. They're just incredible. Like, it just shows like what people can do when they're sort of unleashing their creativity. Other things, like one little thing that happened this week, I tried out Mario Kart Live given the updates, and my two boys, so they're like almost 1 and 3, or almost 1 and 4, I should say. And that game toy is so cool. Like, it was so funny to see my youngest one like chase after the Mario Kart in the lounge room. It's just absolutely hilarious. It's such an underrated toy. I do wonder if it's going to be super popular over Christmas. But outside of that, pre-ordered something that we'll talk about shortly, and also got my Monster Hunter Stories amiibo. It's in the shelf in the other room. I should put it behind me next time, but man, that amiibo, they look really incredible. Like, they just look very, very cool. Like, very high rating from an amiibo perspective. But if you haven't bought them, unfortunately, they're completely sold out. And already on the secondary market, they're selling for like triple the price of what they were listed. And I actually think they'll go for way more in the future. Like, they're probably...
You already got your Rise ones, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. How big's the Magnum Arlo one for that?
It's huge. Do you want to talk for a second? I'll go grab it.
All right. So, Mike.
How about I tell people what I've been playing this week?
No, well, before we get to that, I was going to ask, how many amiibo do you own?
I have more than you think. I actually think I have about 10 of them.
Oh, you got 10 amiibo? I'm actually shocked.
I think so, yeah.
So that's my big fat head. It's pretty big.
Sheesh.
I think you can
Detail
still get this one.
cool.
This one's really cool, but I have to say I like the Monster Hunter Stories one more. I think they're really cool.
I was on the Australian Nintendo store because you told me about the Hanafuda cards,
yeah.
And they seem to still be available. So,
if you order anything from the store, do you mind ordering me the Hanafuda cards? Because I don't want to pay for shipping, and you have to pay.
I've already bought them. Sorry, too late.
Far out, man. Fair enough.
I jumped on it. And I'm like, I don't know if these things are going to sell out, so I'm jumping on them.
I know. That's why if they sell out, I'm going to be pissed.
What are these cards?
So
for the uneducated.
Nintendo is a 131-year-old company.
Yep.
And really the thing that they were most famous for originally was being a card company. And Hanafuda, the game is called Hanafuda, right, Swinny?
I
believe it is. Yeah.
I'm hoping this comes with rules.
It does. No. Sorry. You're going to hate this. The rules are available on the My Nintendo store as a PDF.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, it's a game that they play in Japan. And you have these Hanafuda cards. So that's what they were most famous for. And then I think in the 50s, they did a collaboration with Disney to do Disney-themed Hanafuda cards into Japan. Mm-hmm. And they actually learnt a lot about Disney's business model and tried to replicate it. And they've been trying to, that's what they've been doing for the last 70 years, trying to replicate Disney's model. So
and the cards are a bit smaller than your standard playing card size. So
yeah, as a Nintendo fan, it just, I'm sure you're in the same boat, Swinny. It's just a piece of almost history and just a really cool piece.
The artwork looks cool. And look, we're going to mention it if we get a chance.
Why don't we delete it from the Minute Mic? Because we do need to try to give Mike a break in that section. So they're retailing for $35.
Yeah.
On the and unfortunately the Aussie Nintendo store, it looks a lot shorter than Minute Mic actually. Have you removed things?
Yeah, I cut a quarter of it.
Yeah, he'll definitely get through this.
Thank you. It was all my additions, so we'll talk about that when we get.
Well, mine were more important, but
I was actually going to pre-record it and then just play it at 1.5 speed.
Oh, that's cool. That actually would be cool if you did that, and then your mouth was up. Yeah. So the Nintendo store has the $80 minimum, I think, for free shipping from memory, Swinny.
Yeah.
So did you order the Maglamalo?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
No, I did look around. Honestly, nothing else kind of took my fancy. So I just bugger it. I'll just pay for the shipping. So.
Oh, you paid for the shipping, so we could have actually got it.
Too late.
How much is the shipping from them?
It's like $8 or something.
That's not bad.
No, that's pretty decent.
One item like that. That is actually extremely decent.
They actually package everything. Sadly enough, I have something.
Of course you do.
They package it in a really cool way.
Oh, wow.
With Nintendo branded, and it even has a little Mario inside of it.
Oh, it's actually a cool little box for keep stuff in.
Well, that's what I kept it, just for random shit, because it actually is a cool little box. So anyway, that's me, Mike.
Very nice. What did I do this week? So I played a bit of Donkey Kong, Tropical Freeze, of course. Will I say, have I finished it? I don't know. We'll find out in a second. Because a lot of my time was taken by the goddamn game that both of you suggested, which is Ender Lilies.
Well, Swinny suggested it.
Swinny suggested it originally. Then you kind of encouraged me to do it. I'm like, all right, fine. I got it. Of course. It's really, really good.
It's really good.
Very addictive. I finished it too, much like you. I mean, I don't want to talk about
Ending
the
A?
details. Ending A, yeah. So, of course, then, as you said, you can go back to the last save and then you can continue doing it properly. So I'm going to do it properly as well. I feel like I might 100% that game. It is very good.
Oh, I'm definitely going to 100% it. But it does get tricky to get 100. I haven't used any guides, but it does get tricky to 100%. It gets very cryptic, which I still enjoy. What level are you at?
83 or something.
Oh, we're about the same. I think I'm 87 or something like that. Yeah.
80 something.
Probably about the same area. It's crazy because you get up to a part at the end and then it branches out further. I'm like, oh my God, this game is ridiculous.
There's a few places to go to now. There's still probably 2 or 3 abilities that I know I don't have because there's at least 2 things that I can't get through.
There's one ability that I think I'm missing.
Okay.
Yeah, which is crazy that I'm 15 hours into the game and I'm still missing.
About the same,
about 15, ability. It's
I know.
This is a crazy Metroidvania.
It's a lengthy-ish game, but it doesn't feel like it's overstaying its welcome, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree.
It feels good so far. And even though, the only weird thing, and I guess it can happen with Metroidvania games, is getting ending A was a bit weird. I stumbled across it and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? I didn't even think it was the ending. I thought it was a boss or something.
That's why I said I accidentally finished the game. I sort of went through and I'm like, I ended. Okay, cool. Yeah,
see, little did you guys know that I convinced you guys to buy this game so you can experiment and find out how to do everything. So when I go to do my 100% completion achievement playthrough, I can just ask you guys.
Well, because it's funny because I was asking you questions about, should you invest into this? How many points do you get for this? Blah blah blah. And you're like, just play the game. I thought you had finished the game. You were like the guru editor, and I could ask whatever question I wanted. It turns out
I haven't
we'll
played
wait
this
for
in
that.
slush.
we are way further than you now. So
We'll cover it next week because we'll do the review. I think by then we'll probably have both 100%ed it by then. So, and I would have had the written review hopefully up on books by then. So yeah, no, really enjoying it. You're enjoying it. I think Swinny enjoyed what he played of it and got us onto it. So, all right, well, let's get into the news, and it's kind of a big one. The Nintendo Switch OLED model finally got dropped. It's happening. So the revised model. So named in very Nintendo style, the Nintendo Switch brackets OLED model. The announcement came out of the blue on Twitter and YouTube. So I'm just going to run through some stuff and then we'll open up the conversation. So in terms of features, a lot of the things that were leaked and reported on were 100% correct. 7-inch OLED screen, adjustable stand, but a lot of the features that we were hoping for, I think, including a brand new chipset, GPU, CPU, 4K, DLSS, were not there and confirmed to not be there. It will be releasing on the 8th of October this year, the exact same day as Metroid Dread, and it retails in Australia for $540 at JB Hi-Fi and EB Games. Current model of the Switch is about $460, $470 to $430, but you can see it on sale a lot at around the $400 mark. In terms of are there going to be midnight launches, I did ask a few of the local EB people that I know. Now, Sydney is in a crazy lockdown at the moment, probably going to last till October. But at least from what they're saying, they don't believe that there'd be any chance of midnight launch, and partly due to interest for the console as well. It has not sold out. It's still available everywhere if you want to order it. So in terms of the details, so in terms of the Switch itself, it has a bump from 6.2 inches to 7 inches.
Nice.
If you just want to quickly visualize it, if you actually look at the Joy-Cons and the little plus button, the current display sits flush just under the bottom of the plus, if you can imagine a horizontal line, whereas the new Switch, it will be above the plus line. So the plus button's like horizontal line. So like it is quite bigger. So you're talking about 25% increase in display area, but it uses the same 720p screen, which is interesting because if you're actually looking at the screen, and I like play very closely, I will notice the difference. I will notice that it's less kind of clarity in terms of the actual screen. In terms of the adjustable stand, it's very much like the Microsoft Surface. There's a bump up to the internal storage from 32 gigabytes to 64 gigabytes. The speakers have been enhanced. People are saying who've had hands-on, it's noticeable, but it doesn't blow you away, which is a little bit disappointing for me. It's available in 2 color schemes as a SKU, but that's all the Joy-Cons and the dock. So it's white or black / neon, red and blue. It is going to be, oh no, actually I correct myself. The dock isn't black. I think it's still white even if you get the neon. Is that right, Swinny? Actually, do you mind checking that?
Yeah, I'll have a look.
I can't visualize it. I can't remember if the dock's going to be black or it's all going to be white, even if you get the neon red and blue.
I have not seen any pictures of the dock being the color, but I'll check it out now.
All right, if you don't mind checking on the neon red and blue. In terms of the size of it, the actual Switch itself is going to get bigger. So it's a bit strange. So the width, it's going to be about a third of a centimeter wider. So just from a tolerance point of view, that might mean it won't fit into a lot of cases.
Okay, so I can clarify. So the box of the one with the neon red and blue, the dock is black.
Wow, so that is interesting. I'm surprised that they've gone to that effort because that means they're producing double, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it would look nice though.
Red and blue would have been cool.
I don't think it would look nice though. That's
you
probably
reckon
why.
It wouldn't? I think it'd be a cool combo.
Yeah, and it's also heavier, so it's 20 grams heavier with Joy-Cons. Well, either Joy-Cons attached or by itself. In terms of the dock, as we're just talking about, probably the biggest change, like apart from the visual changes, that they've removed the behind the case USB 3 port, so they've eliminated that, and they put a built-in LAN port, and they did advertise that, which is quite funny given that the original Xbox had a LAN port. And they've still got the 2 USB ports at the front, but they're both USB 2.1. So the current Switch has a USB 3.0, but it hasn't been activated. They've never had a firmware update to activate the 3.0 functionality of it. So kind of interesting that they've always had that. It's a bit rounder. It does seem like they've responded to some of the criticism about scratching the Switch. So it's a bit curvier at certain portions just to sort of, smooth it out, make sure that people don't scratch their Switch. It does seem like it's accommodating a wider Switch, but then I don't know how it works because they have said that you can use them interchangeably. So you can use an original Switch and put it on the new dock, or the new Switch and vice versa. So
Well, I imagine they're saying that in regards to the Joy-Cons, because the Joy-Cons have space there, whereas if your note here about the Hori Split Pad Pro is different because it juts out, you know.
Well, yeah, and I'm not sure if it'll fit or not. Like, I just have to see. It'd be really frustrating if I can't use the Split Pad Pro, because I kind of just roll with that now. Yeah, so it's interesting. The dock, they've said that it's going to be sold separately. We don't know any pricing in Australia yet, but I'm guessing it'd be like 130 Australian dollars, which is kind of overpriced, but that's what it normally retailed for. I think we've covered most of the stuff that's the same. The one thing I just wanted to call out before we just open it up is, you know, the Switch actually has had a revision. This is the third revision of the mainline, you know, console. And that was back in middle of 2019. So that was what I was referring to at the start of the show. I thought that was like 3 years ago, but I think the pandemic has just skewed all my mind in terms of how long things have been. I was really debating about getting this revision because they actually were using a custom Tegra X1 system on a chip, like CPU. Like that was the one thing that they changed, right? And it bumped it from like it was like 900 megahertz or something like that to 1.3 gigahertz. From a compute perspective, instead of using that power, they just used it to extend the battery, right? That is the exact same chipset that they've got in this model. And for me, like, and I guess just opening it up, and I'll throw to you first, Mike, like, for me, in a really weird way, even though this aesthetically looks different, you know, really cool display that I'm going to love, I kind of almost feel like that first revision that they did, so revision 2 with the beefier CPU and battery life, was almost a bigger step up than the step up from that to this. I don't know. What do you think?
Possibly, yeah. So I've got what I assume is the revision because I've got the Mario themed one, which came out pretty recently.
Does it have a big red box, or which one did you get?
It's the one. It's the latest version. That's the Mario themed one.
Do you want the one that came with Odyssey?
No,
like,
the one. The Mario themed looking one that's fully red.
That's the revision,
which would have
too.
been the revision one.
Yeah.
It's probably the most recent special one they've had.
It is.
So I'm assuming it's a revised one. Yeah. Now, what I find interesting is I played mostly handheld, and I obviously did no tests between the original one that I used to have, which was a launch one, and the new red one that's supposed to have a longer battery life. But honestly, I don't actually really notice a longer battery life coming out of it. I still feel like I'm still only getting the 4-point-something hours out of those games. Now, that's not to say that maybe it's slightly longer and my perception of it is a bit skewed, but I'm just not feeling that 9 hours that you kind of expect. In fact, relatively speaking, having played similar games, I'm not really feeling that it's that much different to my original Switch. I know it's supposed to be, but it doesn't really feel like it.
It definitely is.
So, yeah, I'm sure it would be, but it certainly doesn't feel like it, which is a bit odd. And I'm assuming, because I play on the Lite as well, that it's same sort of lifespan as the Lite. The Lite was the Lite more in line with the original Switch.
I don't have those specs in front of me.
Yeah, I don't really know either.
I think the Lite's extended as well, from memory.
But in any case, it's I mean, having extra battery life, especially for someone that plays handheld, is very useful. But it's not a huge deal because, I mean, you don't generally have gaming sessions that on a Switch that last 5 hours, and if you do, you probably need to put it down because your hands are going to cramp in handheld mode. So I never found that to be an issue. You know, you just plug it in, charges up pretty quickly. It's all good.
So for my use, I literally got my Switch on the first day it was available back in March 2017. Like my Switch, I always run into battery issues. Like constantly, I'm getting the warning coming up saying,
I've seen it a lot too.
It's turn off, blah, 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 blah. So for me, it's going to be a huge change, like way more battery life, you know, the display.
But don't expect too much. Like the way more, it's probably a perception thing. You kind of just let it go. You forget about it. You're engrossed in the game. And if you're anything like me, you're going to keep seeing that battery meter. It's going to keep saying you're low on battery. Trust me.
An extra 2 hours is pretty huge.
Oh, it's huge, but you'll play that extra 2 hours. You'll forget to charge it and you'll still see that message come up.
So I just checked the Lite. So it's 3 to 7 hours. So it's slightly better than the old one, but much worse than the new revision.
Okay, fair enough.
Interesting.
So back in terms of the OLED Switch, first of all, I called it. I said it wasn't going to be a Pro model. I mean,
That's
I don't
true.
think it was a secret or anything, but I kept saying,
yeah.
I don't think it's a Pro model. Don't get your hopes up. It's going to be a few revised things, and it's just going to be I did probably say that it was going to maybe replace the existing Switch lineup, but I was wrong on that. It looks like it's an addition to the existing lineup, which makes it a really interesting proposition when it comes to buying it. I think if you already have a Switch, unless you have the first generation, and even then, okay, maybe the battery life's going to be better. I don't know. I don't know if it's worth the $300 upgrade. It's not really worth it. If you've got the latest version of the current Switch, I definitely don't think $299 as an upgraded EB Games, which seems to be the cheapest option, not including how much you can sell it for on eBay, obviously. That's completely depends on a lot of factors. But if you're new to the market, I think it's worth paying the extra. So if you're looking at, what is it, a $70 difference of selling, give or take, it's worth the extra money, I reckon.
Yeah, if you get sales and everything like that, it's quite a lot more, really, in real terms. I'm
assuming they're going to put it on sale as well, so it's hopefully going to stay relatively in line.
Yeah,
you reckon they won't? We'll see.
Not Christmas, man. The Switch is selling like hotcakes. So
okay,
yeah. How about you, Swinny? Because I remember when the announcement came out, and I was like, "Holy moly!" Like, I hadn't watched it. I just knew, okay, it's a new Switch because it said Switch OLED model, and I'm like, "Oh my god, there's a new Switch." And I sent it to you guys. We probably should have recorded something. It was kind of dumb on my part. I'm not thinking like a content person. But how did it hit you, Swinny, when you watched the announcement? You know, because I don't think you knew what it was when you were watching the video, right?
I mean, yeah. So I think I'd actually read an article before I watched the video.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you always do that. You missed the spoiler.
No, I just wanted to quickly get, because I know Nintendo, like, I knew it was just going to be something of some hipsters on a rooftop doing stupid stuff. So I just wanted to get the quick specs just so that I could absorb it quickly. Honestly, look, it is what it is. It's basically, to me, it's like, the equivalent of like the 3DS XL kind of upgrade, where it's essentially just a bigger screen with a couple of minor improvements, but generally the hardware is the equivalent. The couple of things I just wanted to mention that we didn't really call out was the fact that there's been no mention at all of any changes to the Joy-Con hardware.
Oh, they've confirmed there's no changes.
Yeah. So that basically means that any issues to do with drift would essentially still exist, which is, to me, just an absolute travesty, because that is, to me, the biggest failing of the Switch hardware. And also the fact that, because it's wider, some accessories may not actually fit anymore, depending on how tight the carry cases are and things like that. It's a very minor increase in width, but some of them might be really, really snug. So just kind of maybe just check that before you kind of run out and purchase it if you're planning on using the same stuff. And apparently Labo may not fit as well, considering you got to slot the Switch into some of that stuff.
Oh, so Labo won't work correctly because it also lines it up to the display itself in a lot of games. So given the display is bigger, Labo in most cases won't be able to be used on this.
Yeah, I don't think most people are probably going to worry too much about that.
Yeah, I don't think in 2021. People really care about Labo.
It's weird that Nintendo didn't worry about that.
Well, they did mention it, but what are they going to do? Not upgrade because of Labo? Because no one even plays it.
So look, it's obviously disappointing that there's not more to this. A lot of the rumblings I've heard around, what was going on with this reporting, because, Bloomberg is very reputable.
Yep.
And the idea of how, specifically, we got the 7-inch OLED screen, we've got the new kickstand, which is great. I think the stand is one of the best improvements they've done to this.
Oh, really?
Because the existing stand, I just so crap
it's
on the
pointless.
Switch. Like, I've had so many issues with that.
Did you try to use the stand?
I've used it before as well. It's not great.
When I'm on like a plane or something,
Really?
I've tried to use the stand and it's just awkward as hell. But just in terms of the other stuff that didn't come to fruition, specifically any 4K or DLSS stuff or the new chipset itself, a lot of the rumblings I've heard is that there's two potential lines of information here. So the line of information about this essential OLED model and a potential model for 2022. So that's the rumblings that I've heard, is that the lines potentially got crossed there, with Bloomberg getting potential information from multiple sources talking about different models of the Switch. So don't think that, look, it could never happen, but there is a chance that we may actually see the upgraded chipset when it actually makes sense. Like, makes sense with the current environment with the chip shortages and stuff like that. That it just. I remember when we talked about that, the idea of them of going that route this year seemed kind of crazy with all that stuff happening. But yeah, in terms of would I pick this up? No. If they had fixed the Joy-Cons, then I would have considered it, because I do like the changes they made to the dock. But there's part of me that's also thinking, if the existing model sits pretty nicely in the dock, even like not even talking about the Hori Split Pro, I was looking at getting a second dock potentially in the future anyway.
Okay.
So maybe I'll pick that one up, or maybe the older docks will you'll start to see a lot of them going for cheap, and I can just pick one of them up. So.
Yeah, I'll let you know, because I've pre-ordered this. I'll definitely pick it up. I have to voice my frustration if I'm lucky enough, because Sydney is in such a brutal lockdown at the moment. If I am lucky enough to go to PAX, the timing is perfectly imperfect. So I'm like on a plane like half an hour before this becomes available to purchase and pick up. So I've ordered like Metroid Dread, Amiibo, Special Edition, Switch OLED, everything. And it's all going to be sitting in my local EB until I get back from Melbourne.
Why don't you get them to transfer the pre-order?
I honestly think I will. I think I'll call up
Makes more sense.
I think I'll cancel it all and the Amiibo, but then I'll have to just get the Amiibo when I'm back. But yeah, I think I'll cancel it all and then just do it all at a local, I won't say which one, a local EB to Swinny probably. So anyway, that's frustrating. But yeah, I guess I'll do that. I mean, the benefit is, and I'm really glad that it isn't like sold out straight away. Like that's such a good thing, because it's such a pain in the ass with the PlayStation 5. Like you have to be like ready to buy one within 30 seconds on it getting released. It's ridiculous, the PS5.
I think it's also testament to the fact that it's not wowing a lot of people in terms of the
100%.
The upgrade.
100%. Like there's a lot of people that will pick it up, but it's not going to blow people's socks off. And going back to what you're saying, Swinny, I went back and reread Bloomberg's report. Like honestly, a lot of it's still very accurate, and they're pretty.
Oh yeah,
they're very careful with what they say. The biggest blunder, I guess, is like they're saying pretty much adamant it's got 4K support, which it doesn't. Right? It's been confirmed. It does not have 4K support. And I 100% agree with you. I'd go even further. I think it's 90% chance that there will be a Switch revision in the next 18 months. And I do think like two things. One, I think it was always going to be lined up with the new Breath of the Wild. And that game has been delayed massively. Like they don't want to talk about it. That game's not coming out next year. That game's going to come out in early 2023. And I think that's when the new Switch Pro is going to come out. And I mean, I've said this all the way through. I think those two things will come out at the same time. There's a lot of bolted on people that just, I don't know, it's almost becoming part of Nintendo now, like a launch Zelda game. And yeah, I think that's when they'll do the revision. And I think part of it is with Furukawa now running Nintendo, he's the most like business person who's been running it. Like it's less on traditions. And he's very much into, how can they juice the IP, everything like that. And I think they're looking at it and going, we're like selling gangbusters right now. The momentum's still keeping up. We can put something out here that will still get people to jump on or get new people to jump across, because visually it looks different. I mean, there's a reason why they made it white. They want to make it so clear to people who come in and go, oh, this is a new thing. This is a new Switch thing. And then I look at it compared to, I can't get a PS5. I can't maybe get an Xbox Series X. It's cheaper than them as well. So if you're a parent, you're like, well, this is cheaper. This is new. I'll just go with the Nintendo one. They're more family friendly. Like from a pure business perspective, it makes so much sense. And I kind of am annoyed with myself getting caught up with the rumors, because I think I tell you all the time, you guys, like I'm not a big rumors fan. And I have to admit it, I got fully sucked in and went against our whole policy.
We did.
I have to say it. Would you say you were OLED Astray?
That's a cool title. I like that title.
There's been some great puns coming out of all
That's a good one.
This stuff.
That's got to be the title of the show, OLED Astray. Yeah, like I was. And I like I said, I'm punching myself, because I'm always like, don't look at the rumors, take information from the reporters, but don't get sucked in. And I got sucked in. And that Jeff Grubb guy, I never will trust anything coming from that guy again. And then the fact that he's now going, I always said it was 2022. I'm like what? Like, here's a tweet where he said it was going to come out before E3. Come on, dude. Yeah, so look, I'm ordering it. So, I'm obviously Nintendo shill here and I'm getting it anyway. But it is a bummer.
It makes sense in your case, I think. It makes sense in your
Mine,
case.
I think, is actually dying. Like, the fan, I was going to grab the fan to put it in the microphone. It's like, and I'm like, whoa.
Man.
I actually think, and my solution to the Joy-Con drift is to trade it into EB and
yeah, that is what
ones.
I think a lot of people's solution is. I bought a secondhand Joy-Con and surprisingly it was actually perfectly fine, which is a bit weird.
Yeah,
I expect all of them.
I'm just saying, you also don't believe in wearing a rubber if you're buying a Joy-Con, a secondhand Joy-Con. Like,
yeah, clearly. I'm a risk taker.
You are the ultimate risk taker.
I figured, it's got a warranty, whatever. I'll test it out. And it turned out to be to work perfectly fine, which is kind of, like I said, it's a surprise. I just assume for some weird reason that every single secondhand Joy-Con at EB Games is broken.
Yeah, that's what I assume.
You just assume that's the only reason people would possibly trade one in. But So the only thing I would say about this, and you kind of touched on it slightly, and I wonder how it's going to be, so I can't wait to compare it, is I switched between, no pun intended, my regular Switch and my Switch Lite. And you do get sort of like a crisper and almost like a nicer image on the Lite just because it's more condensed and the resolution is higher in terms of the pixel density, obviously, because it runs at the same res, but it's a smaller screen. So now I wonder if the OLED is going to be nicer in many ways, but noticeably more blurry or pixelated, because it is a bigger screen. I don't think it's going to be a huge issue, but I'm curious to see what it's going to look like.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing it on 8th of October. All right, let's move on to the next story. And Swinny, do you want to take this one away?
Yeah, so it's some kind of
huge
very
news
unexpected, very unexpected and interesting news, and very kind of divisive news coming out of the Assassin's Creed camp this week. So we had an article come out from Bloomberg talking about a new Assassin's Creed live service platform, or a live service game being in development, with being codenamed Assassin's Creed Infinity. And Ubisoft jumped on it straight away once that news came out and essentially officially confirmed it, without really talking as much to detail as what Jason Schreier does in the Bloomberg article, but still confirmed that the project is a real thing. So rather than the basic gist of it is that rather than being set in one historical period or location like a traditional Assassin's Creed game, the idea is that this is a platform that will contain multiple different settings and can expand over time. And they're looking at games like GTA Online and Fortnite for inspiration of how to create, I guess, a living online platform of sorts. And there's obviously red flags that start popping up for a lot of people with this, but let's just look at, I guess, the details before we kind of get to what we think of it. This is honestly kind of very, like, Assassin's Creed series is very meta in a lot of ways. It pokes fun at themselves, like Abstergo Entertainment, which is like the entertainment arm of like the Templar organization. They're kind of modeled off Ubisoft. It's actually really, really funny in the games. They're very self-referential. It's quite funny. And in Assassin's Creed Unity, the game opens up with a platform called Helix that's developed by Abstergo Entertainment, which is basically this thing. Where it's like, okay, you can play in the Crusades, and it's got the different kind of games from, it's like the previous Assassin's Creed games set up as like video games you enter in from this Helix platform. So it's almost like that coming to life in a way. It's really, really bizarre. It's like fiction become a reality.
Yeah.
But we know that this is several years away. This is something that's in early development. It'll be handled by they've restructured their development between their Quebec and Montreal studios. So typically they would it was like pass the baton style between the two studios over the last few games, with support from their other studios. And, like, I think Ubisoft Sofia, and I'm not sure, Singapore, or so. There's a whole bunch of Ubisoft studios that act as support to the main, I guess, Quebec and Montreal studios working on these games. But now they'll actually be working on this together. So it actually, I think Schreier's article also delves into a lot of, I guess, the internal issues that Ubisoft is having, and basically says that, look, apparently this is causing some concern about the fact that they haven't dealt with that yet. But overall, just about the game itself, look, I'm actually really, really pumped for this. When you first heard hear the term live service Assassin's Creed, you're like, wait, what? I'm not a big fan of games that I'm not a big fan of games that are basically like, okay, you have to do raids and people I like my single player experiences. The multiplayer that they've done in the Assassin's Creed games have actually generally been done pretty well, but they're always a small element of it. But what I really, really love about this idea is that we can potentially see more expanded stories in some of the existing characters, like it's the Assassin's Creed Chronicles China game, being able to set, I guess, a new story in an actual 3D proper game. I've always wanted a 3D version of Assassin's Creed China, and it's like you could do that. You could expand on the existing characters. You could obviously take it to new places. It's a lot of it is wait and see, because of course it's going to be monetized to all hell. It's going to be like, if you thought monetization in the current Assassin's Creed games is bad, this is going to be absolutely horrible.
Yep.
But I kind of don't have a live service game that I play, and if I'm going to play one, this sounds like the one for me. The only other thing I'll say is, well, that the last few Assassin's Creed games have started to veer into that territory anyway. Not the multiplayer part, but the fact that you have seasonal content as opposed to just traditional DLC. You're seeing updates for Valhalla still that's adding new modes and everything like that. And the idea is, I guess, to expand on that. And it makes sense from a financial standpoint, obviously, if it works for Ubisoft, because a lot of the upfront development cost in building the platform is done, and then you can essentially work on that for years to come. But
look, because I'm like a real noob. I've never played Assassin's Creed. I'm always looking at picking up Odyssey if it goes for real cheap, just for lols. And backstory is Swinny did this really awesome tier list and put Odyssey number one, and everyone who's a quote unquote real Assassin's Creed fan hates Odyssey. But what's the multiplayer like for Assassin's Creed?
So Brotherhood introduced actual multiplayer. They continued that on with, I believe Revelations still had it, but Black Flag and Assassin's Creed 3 also had it. But they were always side modes, and they were actually cool. Not my thing, but they were cool. But then Assassin's Creed Unity added co-op, and that's I think the closest to what this kind of model would be, because I don't see live service being like a PvP. It might have PvP, but I think the idea is, well, almost like your, and I hate to say it, but like your Avengers style, where, look, it's got a strong single-player element to it, but there's going to be parts that get people to essentially, hey, let's team up and take on this, this
so like Destiny, basically, really.
Yeah, like there's going to be that. Surely it has to be that, because the idea of, okay, I'm going to purchase microtransactions for costumes, you need other people to play with to make that really a value, really, to a lot of people. So
that's the part that I'm really struggling to understand with this. So fully understand the push for making it live service. In a way, it kind of addresses my biggest annoyance with Assassin's Creed, where you pick up something like Valhalla. And I was actually really excited when they were talking about Valhalla's going to be shorter. It will be shorter than Odyssey. And then it comes out, and I haven't played the game, but I think howlongtobeat.com is a pretty fair, objective measure of how long the game is. And categorically, Valhalla is longer than Odyssey. It's actually, I think, the longest Assassin's Creed game. And to me, that's super frustrating. It's like, I don't want a 40-hour Assassin's Creed game. Like, the idea of that is so unappealing to me.
I feel like it's going to be more than 40 hours.
Well, I think it's 70 hours from memory. Like, it's insane. Like, that is just, I do not want to play that, right? And that's just me personally. And I know, like, Swinny loves the series, and that's cool, right? That's perfect for Swinny. But this live service thing kind of intrigues me a little bit, because it's just like, that's it's almost like they're breaking that and chunking that content into seasons, I'm guessing. And you can kind of get into like those small little chunks and play that.
But live service games are designed to be longer experiences.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but not all at once.
Campaign.
Not all at once, though. This is the thing for me. It's like...
Yeah, the problem is they're designed so in order for you to achieve what you feel you need to achieve, you're going to sink more time than what you would have in Valhalla or any of those games.
No, but they're all designed to keep you engaged for day after day, month after month. They really hyper-focused on like monthly active users, daily active users, right? So that's not necessarily to mean like you... Because normally with a game, I'll just get into it and just dump, 10, 20, 30 hours in a very short space of time. That's just how I play. Whereas like, that's where I look at Valhalla. I'm checking it now. 56 hours for the main story. Well, for me, it's just way too long.
A lot for the main story.
I've got some games for you. It's called all the previous Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah.
No, but even Odyssey, man, it's 43 hours. I'm like, oh, that's just like so long.
Basically from...
Maybe Origins, 30 hours. That's maybe
basically from Origins onwards, like the games got super long.
Yeah.
The earlier games are much shorter if you're not trying to do everything. But look, I understand what you're saying, but this is going to be something that's stretched out. Like this is going to have a lot of content to
over
it.
time. So, but I still don't understand how this is going to work. I feel like the secret sauce to all these, like, live service games, they're multiplayer. Like, am I confused? Like, are there any?
No, they are. But I mean, yeah, go Swinny.
I was going to say, to me, it makes sense because essentially, Assassin's Creed is all about like the brotherhood and actual, like, the hidden ones, like these groups of people. It makes sense that you can create your own brotherhood, you can create your own clan, you could go on raids. Like, that's not the stuff I'm looking for from Assassin's Creed specifically, but there's easily ways you can implement that in.
And, even when I say this, I have to admit that Genshin Impact is one of the most popular live service games in the entire world. And that's, I think, only single player or at least predominantly single player. So I guess that's an example of, it can work.
What can work? And I think it's funny that they say that they're looking at GTA Online and Fortnite for inspiration, which makes sense for the online components because they're massive when it comes to online stuff. But I would picture an Assassin's Creed game more like the likes of probably Destiny, in the sense that it'll have a lot of single player stuff. It'll be seasonal updates, etc. But there's a lot of things you need to play with friends in order to achieve. Raids, all that kind of stuff.
That inspiration, a lot of that's probably Schreier, also kind of interpreting other secondhand information.
Maybe,
I think they're probably, when they say inspiration, from a monetary standpoint, from
that's what it is.
This is a platform that is going to be around for 6-7 years or something kind of thing,
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
No, I get it. I think I think it makes sense that they're going to go into that direction. It's the next logical step. As much as a lot of people might not like it, might turn out to be good. And I think in the end, it's horses for courses. I think there's people who are willing to spend the tens of hours each week potentially required to do those games justice. And then there's other people who are like, no thanks. This is my worst nightmare, thinking of getting into another Destiny kind of game where every single week I have to log in and do raids and coordinate shit with friends and fail the same thing 20 times because I'm not doing it with the right people or I suck or whatever. That's my definition of a nightmare when it comes to gaming, personally. Yeah. So we'll see.
It's interesting though, because you do look through, hey, what are some of the biggest selling games of the year? And there's a huge portion of them that are live service games now. Yeah. Like the NBAs, the FIFAs, they're actually live service games, really. Like the way that they work. And then pretty much the same as like Call of Duty. Like Call of Duty is probably, from a monetary point of view, the perfect model. Like they actually get you to pay for the version every single year. And then it's really like a live service game. Like the way they monetize it. It is, from a business perspective, chef's kiss. Like you're doing well. Like it's amazing.
The thing for me is to finish up, my final thought is that from an actual narrative way to handle this, Assassin's Creed is almost like the perfect thing, because I mentioned that Helix platform. It's just like, I'm surprised this hasn't happened sooner, honestly.
Yeah. I'm the same as you. I will check it out if it's free. I don't know if it's going to be free, so we'll have to see how it goes, because it'll be kind of a funny way to start the series. All right, let's get into our next bit of news. Death Stranding Director's Cut. More info, Mike.
Yeah, so Sony's recent State of Play gave us a ton of info about that Stranding Director's Cut, including what's new and when it's coming. So first up, it's coming to PlayStation 5 exclusively on the 24th of September 2021. So it kind of sucks a bit for PS4 owners. And it's coming in
and PC owners, like maybe some
PC
people on
owners
the,
too,
on the
actually,
podcast.
that's right, yeah, because we did get it on PC too. I actually, funny you say that, because I have a few friends who have it on PC. So look, maybe they'll do this for PC later on. I don't know. It's weird. I mean, I'm sure they'll have a whole bunch of other additions, and we'll talk about some of the features as to why maybe they couldn't support some of the stuff on the PS4 platform, but doesn't really make sense. Anyway, I digress. So it's going to be available for $50 USD. And existing owners of Death Stranding on PS4 can upgrade to the Director's Cut for $10, and that includes the Digital Deluxe Edition. So you get all the extra goodies as well with the $10 upgrade, which doesn't seem like a bad deal actually if you already have an existing copy. And I believe you two have existing copies on PC, so this isn't going to apply. But you should still play that game that I bought you. Anyway. Again, I digress.
Can you mention that within this one segment?
We'll come back to it at the end, okay?
Yeah, let's come back to it, sure. So the new trailer also showed off many of the cool new things that are included. And there's no word on if any of the new content or features will be made available to the PC version, as we've covered, which sucks. So what about some of the features before we discuss the whole PC thing? So when it comes to new content, there's new story missions, bosses, there's a firing range will look pretty sick in the trailer, and there's a fragile circuit racing mode, which is I wonder, I didn't quite see the details of whether you can create all your own little roads and create your own, or join other players' roads as well. But it's a really interesting thing to integrate into a game like this, I think. There's a whole bunch of new equipment, including a mazer gun, mounted guns, cargo catapult, which I think is going to be a bit of a gameplay change, being able to get certain cargo across terrains that are really, really tricky to traverse in the normal game. There's a new support skeleton, a buddy bot. I think a buddy bot's going to be really cool. So
that looks so Metal Gear Solid 4.
It totally Metal Gear Solid, but it looked awesome. So in the current version, or the traditional version of the game, obviously you had to carry everything on yourself, and there's different skeletons that you could have that assisted you in certain ways, including more speed, better stability, etc. And you could also have a little thing you could pull behind you where you could stack a whole bunch of other containers, and the physics was really, really crazy well implemented in how it worked. But having a buddy bot would make life, I think, a hell of a lot easier. So it'll be really cool to get back into it and try it out. And the last thing was also a jump ramp, which is interesting. There's a few sections in the game where you can't really cross the terrain with a vehicle, obviously. Like there's a crevice and all sorts of holes and whatnot. So this could make it really interesting. As another way to actually traverse and get to where you need to. They've also upgraded melee combat, which should be interesting. I know in the very initial trailer that we saw, that looked very Metal Gear Solid-y, you know, the one I'm talking about with the box, where they sort of it felt like it was almost a level in the original Metal Gear in some sort of underground facility. So I think having upgraded melee combat in situations like that would be really good. There's new online features with friend play and leaderboards, improved visuals. So in terms of graphics modes, there's a performance 4K upscaled at 60 FPS, which is going to be awesome, or fidelity native 4K. This is definitely a game that I would enjoy playing at 60, although it's not necessarily the most fast-paced action. So 30 was perfectly adequate on my Pro when I played it. It's more about how awesome the game looks than anything else. And of course, both options will support HDR and ultra wide modes, which is really good. One thing that I'm looking forward to, and I will hopefully get a chance to try this out soon, is the haptic feedback and the adaptive trigger support, which in a game like this would actually be really cool, because the weapons do feel quite different. And I think the way they could implement it with a lot of different parts of the game could be really, really cool.
Just the idea of giving Hideo Kojima access to haptic feedback and haptic triggers, knowing even what he did with the original PlayStation Rumble. Oh my god, yeah.
To me, the cool, yeah. So The other thing is 3D audio support, which for a game like this, I think is going to be awesome. I was lucky enough to play it with my 5.1 relatively cranked up, so I had the full surround experience, and it was awesome. It had some of the coolest songs in just I can't describe it, and I don't want to spoil it, but there's certain parts that almost gives you shivers at how cool it was implemented with the music in it.
It's got churches on the soundtrack. That's automatically a winner for me.
So what else? There's a PS4 to PS5 save transfer, which I think will be extremely handy for people that have already played the game on PS4, myself included. I did finish the game. I didn't finish everything, so I didn't 100% of platinum the game, but I certainly finished the story. I built most of the roads. I did most of the deliveries. I think there were a few things that I wanted to clean up that I never got around to. So it'd be good to kind of transition to that. And if I'm not mistaken, from what I read as well, a lot of the stuff isn't necessarily instantly unlocked. You kind of unlock it as you progress through the story or as you get to certain parts. So I'd be keen to see how that works for both new players as well as existing players that have already done the entire game, basically, are loading up a save file. Will they be able to go to a certain spot and activate something like the firing range, let's say? I'm just assuming that's how it's going to work.
So I wonder, from considering I haven't played Death Stranding just yet, and I know that at least on the PS4 version, I assume the PC as well, is that the idea of it being a strand game where other players influence and you find, the equipment they build and the roads to build and stuff. I assume all that stuff will it'll be like a start over fresh for the director's cut, so you won't see existing stuff from the previous version.
Good question.
Already in the world.
I think you do. Because why would you have the save transfer otherwise?
Yeah, that's true.
Progression.
I also love how you called it,
That's
given
true.
that it's a strand game, as if this is an established genre.
This is what we're calling it now.
as Metroid is the Metroidvania.
No, but it's like they've gone at length over the years to try to push, and I understand, like, to me it makes sense. It's like an expansion on the whole asynchronous multiplayer of like Dark Souls and stuff, but it's going further,
much further
than that to where it's actually really impacting your world in terms of the physical environment.
Be interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the fact that it's got the save transfer, then it would make sense that you would jump into the world as it is currently. But I don't know until we get confirmation on that.
I think that the pricing is where, in Australia, we're going to get screwed the most on these kind of things, like with Ghost of Tsushima and with this. Because, for US listeners, you've gone from 60 to 70 US dollar games in general. And so it's a $10 increase for you guys. But we had been really competitively priced in PS4, pretty much cheaper in Australia in US dollar terms to buy games. Now we're more expensive in this next gen, like ridiculously so. Like we're totally swinging the other way. And what
It's
I'm
practically
finding,
doubled almost in terms of a lot of launch games.
it's crazy. It's crazy.
Depends on the game, but yeah.
Yeah, and the console, like you still can regularly get Nintendo games for like $50 US, brand new games. Whereas, like PS5 games are like $80 US for us. It's nuts.
I think it's more than that, actually. We pay 125 on some games, which is probably $100 US.
Yeah, but that's the most extreme, right? Like, I don't think many people
still counts.
like that.
There's quite a few. There's quite a few that I like.
Anyway,
Demon's Souls is still that amount, isn't it?
Kind of doesn't change my point, but I think this, because it's £10 or $10 US difference. I think for us, it's actually going to be 20 Australian dollars. I'm guessing that's where they land with it. And even if you look at the current pricing on the PS Store of the Director's Edition or the Director's Cut versus what the PS4 version is, it's like a $20 difference between those two games. So I'm kind of like a bit annoyed about that. Having said all of that, I'm like almost tempted to buy the PS4 version off Amazon for 24 Australian dollars and then buy the upgrade. And it's just annoying because I've got the PC version. I don't know. I'm not sure where I land with that.
I'd probably. It's an interesting one.
It is a good PS4 game, or like PS5 game.
Yeah,
right?
I'd probably play it on PlayStation if I could. Yeah, if I had the choice.
Well, it's just going to be money, right? It's like I
that's
don't
all it
need
is,
to buy.
Yeah. Well, it's money and the fact that if they have a friends play mode now.
Well, do we know all the details of that specifically though?
But he'd need a PS5.
No, I don't think we know all the details.
No.
Around the friend play,
yeah.
Anyway, I'll see how much the upgrade is and if you can still get a cheap copy of Death Stranding. Like maybe you can even get a secondhand copy for pretty cheap.
Oh, probably. Yeah, you can just borrow my copy.
All right, let's move on to the next story. Do you want to cover this, Swinny?
Sure, I'm definitely the most suitable one for this. So we had an event from Nacon this week, the Nacon Connect event that I actually stayed up for, kind of regrettably, because I knew that it would have a lot of stuff that I don't care about, but I knew that they were showing off the best look yet at Spider's upcoming action RPG Steelrising. I wasn't expecting a release window, but we did get one, so that's great. For anyone that doesn't know, Steelrising is basically like, also I should say Spiders, sorry. They've worked on titles like Bound by Flame, Mars Warlogs, The Technomancer, and GreedFall. Talked about them a lot in the last few weeks because of all the GreedFall talk. And it just so happened that we finally got some more footage at Steelrising. So Steelrising is coming out for PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series consoles, and PC in June next year, assuming obviously there's no delay there. Which is later than I thought. So I had Steelrising as one of my top 5 most anticipated games for 2021, but obviously I missed the mark a bit on that. It was more of, I think, of a hope, because I'm like, I just really, really want to play that game. So the trailer showed off is very much just focused on the combat of the game. The game has a very unique aesthetic. It's basically, I'll get to the premise in a second, but it's unlike most other games I've probably ever played. It's just really bizarre, and the combat style is also quite strange, and it also leads to it looking really, really weird, because a lot of the enemies are robots and automatons, and they kind of move in a very janky way, and it adds to the fact that this is probably going to be a naturally janky game, as all Spiders games are. But for anyone who doesn't know what Steelrising, I guess the premise of the game is, so essentially built off the question of what would have happened if Louis the 16th had been a tyrant and then had also created a robot army to terrorize the citizens of Paris. I actually think it's such a cool idea. And you actually play as a robot as well, but you join a revolution. You're called Aegis. And yeah, it seems really, really cool. I know that I was watching an interview from June last year with the president of Spiders, and they're talking about how there's going to be more verticality to exploration than there traditionally in their normal games, and more unique ways to navigate the environment. So yeah, honestly, I was hoping for something different from what they showed at Nacon Connect. What I want to see from Spiders next, it's probably not far along enough for this, but I want to see the character walking around the world and interacting with like characters and what it actually looks like from an RPG standpoint, as opposed to the actual combat, because that's not why I play Spiders games. I play them to be immersed in the world and the cool storylines. Like they're not the most memorable plots, but I get engrossed in them. I think they're really, really cool RPGs. I'm not so fussed about the combat. To me, it's more a means to an end. But I'm happy that they're focusing more on it. I guess they're trying to get a bit more near automata, which kind of makes sense with the fact that you're also playing as a robot. But yeah, I was happy to get more info, but I really, really want to see what this game looks like as an RPG, honestly.
I love the premise. I don't know anything about this game.
Yeah.
I don't know anything at all about it, but it's really cool premise. And don't feel so bad about you misjudging the launch timing. I had Breath of the Wild 2 as one of the games I'm anticipating to play this year. And I genuinely believe that'll be 2023.
And I think it's 2023. Yeah.
I think it will be. I mean, they don't even show it in their upcoming for 2022.
Pandemic.
Yeah, no, it looks really, really cool. It's a game I definitely won't play. But it looks really cool.
I don't know, maybe. We'll see.
No, I think the thing is I only have so much hours, very few hours to play games. So
you need to get out of the AAA space sometimes, integot.
Yeah, I know, but
trust me, you'll learn some stuff.
Well, no, I'm playing Ender Lilies right now. Thank you very much. That's not a AAA game. Boom, you're wrong. Retraction. I want a correction for next week now.
I'm talking about 2D indie titles. I'm talking about AA janky, sometimes B grade games.
Well, yeah, we do need to introduce some new segment eventually where it's like we challenge someone else to play a game and see if we can change their mind on it or something like that.
Don't give the power to Mike. We'll be
I know, Mike will be a dickhead about it.
He gives a bunch of virtual stupidity.
That's exactly the example I was going to use.
Hey, do not diss that game. It's not a bad game.
No, but that's exactly the point of a segment like that. But anyway, all right, let's move on to the final bit of news. So the MiSTer gets some massive updates this week. So in big news for MiSTer, there's multiple new cores released and some sad news for PS1 lovers. So just to recap on the MiSTer itself. So the MiSTer project aims to replicate gaming hardware. So that's consoles, arcade, and also computers like the Commodore 64. And trying to replicate that on a hardware level using field programmable gate arrays, or better known as FPGAs. Most of the time, this results in cycle accurate emulation. It still is emulation, but I just think cycle accurate replication of what the hardware is actually doing. So you are playing the games as they were sort of like played in the old days, but you can play it on your big screen TV or on an old school CRT like myself. So in terms of the 3 updates this week, so the long awaited and anticipated CPS2 core has been released by Jitego as a public beta. So this has been available on his Patreon. So we've got the details in the YouTube clip for the Patreon. But essentially, CPS2, what the hell is that? So that's the Capcom System 1/1.5 and 2. So that's games like Street Fighter Alpha 1, 2, and 3, Marvel vs. Capcom, Alien vs. Predator, and then all the variations on the Street Fighter 2 games. All of those games perfectly replicated in hardware form on this little box that you can pump out to your big screen or anything, play in lots of different styles, arcade sticks, whatever you want to do. So it's pretty much the best way to play these games now. This makes me super excited, and it kind of pushes it across the line that I'm going to have to pick one of these things up, and they are pretty expensive. So once you do everything, it's probably like $600 to, get the full kit and everything that I would want on it. But as you can see, and some of the other things I'll cover shortly, I think it's pretty worth it. Second bit of news, and this is a bit sad for me because I was carefully following this. The other core that was really everyone was really amped about was the PlayStation 1. So most people believe that you can replicate the PlayStation 1 on a field programmable gate array or FPGA the current ones that they are available. So that's about the cap, most people believe. I think, Nintendo 64 and beyond is probably a bit too much for these things to replicate. So there has been a massive Patreon sort of push by Laxa 3A and Ultra to replicate this. So there's a big Patreon that's supporting the efforts. There does seem to be a massive fallout between those two devs. So it hasn't really been fully explained, but these two guys are just having at each other. They kind of hate each other now.
It's Mr. Drama.
Mr. Drama. That should be the thumbnail. I'll just post it. Right, but so yeah, there's a bit of Mr. Drama, and yeah, essentially Laxa 3 is just pulled out and I'm not going to be on socials. I'm getting off everything. I'm publishing all the code that I've got so far, and I'm turning off the Patreon, which has, I don't know, last time I checked, 3, 4, 5, 600 people on the Patreon. So it's genuine money being pumped through this. And then he's basically said, well, Ultra now has he has to carry it on and try to finish it as he promised he will. So yeah, there's a lot of bad blood there, which is really shit because I was really looking forward to that PlayStation 1 core. And I think eventually the PlayStation 1 core will come. And I think when that happens, I think MiSTer may hit the mainstream because it's just the perfect way to get PlayStation games running on that thing. And then just the final update, and another really, really cool one. This person, Robert Peep, I guess you'd call it, P-E-I-P. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. They've actually created a custom core for Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance. So as I said, these are all, cycle accurate emulators, but replications of the original. And essentially what you can do now is just say on the big screen TV, you can have 2 copies of Game Boy games linked together virtually, but on the screen, and play 2-player or co-op or versus games on your big screen TV. And I just think this is so really cool, right? You can imagine Pokemon and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And you can play, it feels, I don't know, there's something about this where it's using super old tech and then insanely new tech to bring together something that just really, really awesome. And I think this is the cool thing of MiSTer in general. A lot of this cool shit is coming out and you just can't get in other things a product I have, the Analog.
Why would you put a line piece there?
Yeah, we're just, again, Mike not understanding we're mostly an audio podcast.
There's a Tetris, there's a multiplayer Tetris, the Game Boy version playing, and someone put a bloody line piece in the completely wrong spot.
My wife is insanely good at Tetris, and this is like shocking gameplay.
So I'm waiting for when they can do this for Faceball 2000, because you can technically play 16 players on the Game Boy version, and there's actually a Guinness World Record for most players on a single Game Boy multiplayer session by having to use multiple link cables and link ports and splitters, so funny. You could get 16 people playing on the same session of Faceball.
Maybe you'd have to connect the MiSTers together. So I did do a bit of background reading on this. Supposedly, Robert had to actually slim down the core to be able to have the headroom to run to, I think it was mostly Game Boy Advance, because that's a 32-bit console, handheld, to run two things simultaneously. There was a bit of overhead. So just jump on the Patreon. I've put the links in the description. It will show you how to actually install these. This is not default into MiSTer. It's actually something you need to do a little bit extra to get this working, but I think it's well worth it. I think this is such a cool thing to do, and it's so cool to see it because the Game Boy and Game Boy Color are just perfect sizes to actually show side by side on a 16:9 screen. It's almost designed for it.
I was just looking at the footage of Super Mario 1. Was it Mario? Is it Mario Dance 2? Oh, DX. Sorry, DX. Yeah. Man, way better experience than playing Mario Maker 2 multiplayer, lag free. Bloody on the Game Boy Color.
This is all local, to be fair, but yeah, you are correct though. You are correct. I don't know, it's just a very cool little thing, and I think it's just another reason why MiSTer's such a cool project. And I don't know, I shouldn't say this on the podcast, but I've been debating about selling my analog Super NT to purchase one of these. Because I don't know if I could justify having.
¿Por qué no los dos?
I don't know what that means.
It means
why not both? Yeah, why not both? I kind of realized that the last second. It's just very extravagant to have two FPGA consoles.
Just the man with a 50 amiibo.
Where I got all this stuff in the background.
Amiibos, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I look, maybe I'll ask for, a combined Christmas birthday present or something and get it. I don't know.
Nice.
I don't know. But yeah, it's really cool. I'll do a lot more updates if I do pick up a MiSTer, which I'm almost certain I will. But then I'm gonna get screwed because then I'm gonna end up getting a fight stick for all the arcade fighting games, and it's just gonna get out of control.
You must be one of the only husbands in the world that potentially asks their wife for an FPGA MiSTer console.
Hey, honey,
Christmas.
can I have what now?
I give my wife a lot of credit. She she got the the SNES, the SD to SNES Pro. Sorry, I should say, and the Super NT. She got all of it for me, for birthdays and Christmas and stuff. So yeah,
that's really cool. Really cool. She knows about it.
Yeah,
I have to give just on that note, my girlfriend a bit of credit as well, because I recently got into mechanical keyboards, which bad idea, and I had another one rock up 2 days ago. And I'm like, man, she's going to notice this. This is a problem because it's a distinctively different looking keyboard because half the keys are white and half are black. So I'm like, hang on a minute. I can swap out the black key caps from my other keyboard and she's never going to know. So I did that, grinned to myself, happy days. She comes home, walks into my room. The first thing she says is, what the fuck is that? I'm like, what's what?
Obviously, she's a mechanical keyboard fan too.
Obviously, she is, yeah. So I have to give her a lot more credit that she actually pays attention to the shit that I do. So.
All right. That wraps up the news. Or does it? I think we're going into our Minuteman segment. So again, a recap of the news. 1 minute maximum. If Mike fails, then we'll move on to Swinny having to present the actual segment. So
at a live correction, it's not the Minuteman segment, it's the Minute Mike.
Sorry, yes, you're right. You're right. I might have
Until I fail, it's going to keep being the Minute Mike.
I might have to jump into Audition and try to re-record the intro. Just do my best R&B style singing. All right, I'm going to put the counter up. So 1 minute, and if the timer goes off and the alarm goes off, you have to shut up.
Okay.
For the first time on the podcast. All right.
I don't want no minute man.
Epic vs. Apple Aussie Edition is on again after successful appeal by Epic. Minecraft is adding 19+ age restrictions in South Korea. What? Tencent will use face recognition tech to limit children playing games in China. Moss Book 2 was announced for PlayStation VR. Dark Souls 3 has received an Xbox X Series FPS boost treatment. Will now run at 60 FPS, but still only at 900p. Sony posted deletes ad showing PS5 upside down. What the heck, Sony? Also, UP Spec Gaming's X screen turning Xbox Series X into a pseudo laptop. Jesus Christ, who wrote this? Funded in 20 minutes. An unannounced Animal Crossing theme monopoly spotted in stores. A sealed Legend of Zelda sets a new record of 870,000k at auction USD. Red Dead Redemption 2 gets DLSS support on 13th of July. The Witcher 3 Next Gen will include Netflix shows inspired content. Nintendo cross Tag Heuer collab in a Mario-themed watch. And Ghost of Tsushima was removed from the PS Store for the Director's Cut edition. Why? I don't even know.
Oh, there we go.
So
That was too easy this week, sorry.
Well, we removed a bunch.
You removed way too many.
I removed a lot, but you wouldn't have got through it. But also, you can tell the ones that I wrote and the ones that Integot wrote.
Do the Aussie
Because
you.
the ones that Integot write, they read like a news ticker, and the ones that I write read like a human would actually say it.
What's wrong with this? Aussie Upspec Gaming's X screen turning Xbox Series S into a pseudo laptop funded in 20 minutes.
That is not how you say. Even the fact that a sealed Legend of Zelda sets new record, and he had to add sets a new record. And I actually did modify that a bit to true it.
What? A sealed Legend of Zelda sets new record of 870k at auction. Look at that.
That's
Bang.
not, sets a new record. That's not how a human speaks. That's how a news ticker reads.
That's how a newsreader speaks when they have to get it in there quick.
Damn right.
That's why my things are so much tighter.
But yeah, there was about 7 stories I cut because otherwise Mike wouldn't have got through.
Oh, there's no way I would have done it.
Well, I think from now
10
on,
seconds.
maybe we do this thing of like, it has 200 words limit. I did check it. It was like 280 words, the original
But then
version.
I'll have to screw myself up intentionally to lose.
No,
so
you
guys
won't get
can
200 words. I think you won't. This is less than 200 words. I don't know how many words this is. I couldn't be bothered checking. But
okay.
Anyway, this has been a 1 minute man Mike segment again. So
Best segment of the show.
we're moving on to my second favorite segment, the bargain bin for the week commencing 11 July 2021. As always, we start with the Epic Games Store. Free games this week are Ironcast and Bridge Constructor The Walking Dead. On the Switch, we have Jackbox Party Pack 2 and 3, 2 being $15.75 and 4. Sorry, I said 2 and 3, didn't I? Sorry. Jackbox Party Pack 2 and 4, the first two being $15.75 and 4 being $19.80. I tried to structure that to be better and faster, and it ended up being way longer. Mike, save me with PlayStation.
Okay, so PlayStation FU digital highlights all until the 22nd of July. We've got a way out for $12. That's at 70% off. We've got Bound by Flame at $280 at 80% off.
Represents.
Yeah.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop. And we got Dragon Age Inquisition, the Game of the Year edition.
It's not
for
that
only
great of a game.
$8. Hey, stop interrupting me. And 80% off.
I just wanted that Bound by Flame because we're talking about spiders so much.
Over
so
to you, Interrupter in Chief.
for Xbox, we have a couple of edition highlights. We have Omno coming to PC and console Game Pass on the 29th of July. And also on the 29th of July, we have The Ascent coming to PC and console.
Is that the asymmetric?
Yes, it's
new one?
like a squad. I don't know if it's an RPG or just a natural shooter. It's kind of like, I have to look up a bit more of it, but it looks pretty neat. Yeah. There's also a PSA. 15 NIS America games are actually getting their prices increased across Steam, Epic Games Store, and the Microsoft Store. So this was, I think, reported in a few places, but it was officially announced on their website. And basically, a lot of these 15 games will get the prices increased on the 19th of July. So I'm not going to mention them all, but basically any NIS America games that you'll kind of been looking out for, just check. And if you want to play them on PC, that they're not on that list. Otherwise, you might need to pick them up in the next week. So many of the prices are actually being doubled. So some of them are jumping from $10 to $20 USD. and a lot of it brings the prices more in line with other stores like PlayStation. But an example is Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana is actually increasing from $40 to $60 USD. So and these are permanent price increases, although there are some people speculating that the idea is that they will potentially put them on sale a lot more.
Exactly what I was
after
thinking.
increasing the prices.
That is the smart way to do it. So wait,
Cool.
I was going to ask Swinny a question, but I think it's got a package from Amazon.
Yeah, I do. Apologies.
Yeah,
I'll be back.
go. I literally was going to ask him something very specific that Swinny can answer. It's like the most amazing timing because I was like wondering if it's ease or yees. I thought it was ease.
It's Yeezy.
Oh, he said yees, didn't he? I thought it was ease for the ease series, but anyway. Don't tell me you're trying to Google this. This is like the worst thing.
No, I wasn't going to Google it. I was trying to make a joke about what's his face.
All right, let's move on to the first feature segment. Donkey Kong Country celebrates its 40th anniversary this week. Donkey Kong is 40. So the original game was released on the 9th of July 1981 in arcades.
Doesn't look a day over 20.
And we will be reminiscing over Donkey Kong in general, our thoughts on it, why we love it, why we don't love it. And I'll start with you, Mike. Have you actually played the original Donkey Kong arcade game?
Ooh, tough one. I feel like I have, but I can't remember if I have or it's like a dream that you've had where you think you've experienced that, but it was just a dream. So I don't know anymore. I don't even know who I am. Is reality real?
God.
What is consciousness? I don't know anymore.
This is what happens when Swinny goes off the show, goes off the rails. This is like the one podcast, the one podcast we did together, and then Swinny had 50 corrections.
So I don't recall playing it properly. No, I've seen plenty of it, and I've seen the documentary. The Kong one about the high score.
The King of Kong.
King of Kong, that's the one, which is quite fascinating. So I saw quite a bit of that in there.
That's such an interesting doco because they almost need a follow-up to that documentary, given that Billy Mitchell has been found to have cheated. And like allegedly, I should say, because he does sue everyone. He sues YouTubers even. So I'm certainly saying allegedly. We're in Australian law, so you can't get us. It's not how it works. But my views represent the views of all three of us on the show, including Swinny, who's not even here.
Hey, no. Whoa.
So I've played a stack of the original Donkey Kong on the arcade, like both on the physical arcade and then also with MAME, and then, maybe one day with the MiSTer. So this is the game that also introduced, as he was referred to at the time as Jumpman, now referred to as Mario. So pretty insane that this little game back in 1981, we had Donkey Kong and Mario, and they have been clashing ever since.
This started it all.
And I was really hoping, as I predicted in the E3 predictions, I was so hoping that there would be a 3D platforming crossover Donkey Kong and Mario game. I just think that would be so insane, the possibilities of doing a game like that. And it would have been perfect timing with the 40-year anniversary. But so what Donkey Kong Country games have you actually played? Because I know that Swinny and I played almost all of them, but
so tough one. So I played what was the one that we reviewed last time? Was it 3?
Donkey Kong Country Returns? Are you talking about? Or
I think it was Returns. Yeah, the 3DS one. I played that one.
Yeah, well, that was the Wii one originally, but we released on
the original that was on 3DS. The Wii.
Yeah.
Obviously played more recently Tropical Freeze.
Yep.
And
which we'll cover next as a
retrospective. Yes. I think I played number 3, the one that's on SNES on the classics. And look, back in the day, I dabbled and played 1 and 2. It's just I didn't play it as much as you guys, where I finished it and did the whole thing. So you're way more versed in Donkey Kong-ish.
So you never played any of the arcade games, even?
No, I don't think I played what I'm seeing on the screen now, which is the arcade. Again, I've seen it so many times, but I don't think I've ever actually played it properly. Or if I did, it would have been like 10 minutes tops.
Swinny has returned.
Hey, Swinny. Yeah, like I still think the original arcade game holds up so well. And then Donkey Kong Country Jr., the one that came after it, like those two games are like some of the best arcade games even today, in my view. Like even take off the nostalgia goggles. Like they're kind of weird. They've got like really weird RNG in those games. And, you know, there's so many videos on YouTube. I really recommend people watching it if they want to check it out, of like deciphering even how to control the barrels in Donkey Kong. It's very, very cool. But there is some weird RNG that's going on in those games as well, which kind of adds to their charm in a really bizarre way. So we're just chatting, Swinny, just about Mike and his experience. So it's mostly just with the Country series, pretty much because of us. But what have your experiences with Donkey Kong been?
Yeah, for me, Donkey Kong is a pretty big part of my gaming childhood. So the first DK game I ever played was Donkey Kong Jr. on the NES. And I just remember that game was fantastic. And it's really unique as well at the time. You didn't see many really good, I guess, arcade ports or arcade adaptations on the NES, in my opinion, in those early days. Like, a lot of them are really rough. But what they did with Donkey Kong Jr., I think, was fantastic. I did dabble with the original arcade game here and there as a kid when I saw it, but it wasn't until Donkey Kong Country 64 that I actually spent a lot of time with the first Donkey Kong, and they had a playable arcade cabinet in Donkey Kong 64, and I played that for hours. Donkey Kong, the original Donkey Kong, is my favorite classic arcade game. I love it so much.
Yeah.
As I agree, I think there's definitely some wonkiness to it, but I think it holds up better than most other classic arcade games.
Yeah. You know, like, it would be right up there for me. Like, I'd pretty much instantly say it's top 10. And then, yeah, I'd have to think about it a little bit, maybe top 5. Galaga and probably Street Fighter 2, maybe Pip It for me. But yeah, it's right up there. It's such a cool game.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking like prior to 1990s kind of, you know, arcade games. Like, to me, like I think of like your Street Fighter 2 in a kind of another era almost of arcade games. But yeah, for me, look, obviously after that time, Donkey Kong died off for a little while. And, you know, I know Donkey Kong Jr. made an appearance in Super Mario Kart, which was a lot of people's like, oh, yeah, Donkey Kong Jr. hasn't been around for a while, you know. And then later before the Donkey Kong Country series, you had Donkey Kong 94 on the Game Boy. And I remember just wanting to play that game, you know, so much, and never got a chance until I was a bit older. That's a great game. But of course, the Donkey Kong Country series, I mean, what can you say? It's just, we've spent 50 minutes on previous episodes talking about 1, 2, and 3, you know. I think it's obvious how much they mean to us.
Well, like, right mid-90s is almost like second peak of Donkey Kong, because you had, like as you said, Donkey Kong 1994, yeah, that's right, and then like Donkey Kong Country in 94 as well, and then you know, Super Mario Kart having Donkey Kong Jr. Just like, it was just going bananas, really. Sorry, I had to use that pun at some stage. But yeah, no, it's such a cool like character, and I still feel it's gone back to being a bit underused, Donkey Kong. I don't know if you feel the same, Swinny.
I do. I'd love a new 3D take on Donkey Kong. You know, I think they could definitely do a lot better than 64, and I don't mind 64, but I think, you know, we'll be talking about Tropical Freeze very soon.
Yeah.
I'd like to see them actually do another attempt at an actual 3D Donkey Kong.
Well, you know, I don't want to spruik my idea again, because I did talk about it when you went off to grab the package, but I think that idea of a crossover with Donkey Kong and Mario as a 3D platformer, that's like perfection for me. I'd be so crazy day one on that. That would be my dream, to be honest. And yeah, just looking through it, I don't even know, when was the last big Donkey Kong game? Like, it really was Tropical Freeze in 2014. Am I wrong? Just looking through the wiki.
Sounds about right, in the re-release in 2018. The only other game I really want to just give some love to is Donkey Konga on the GameCube.
Oh, yeah.
I love Donkey Konga. Like, if I had my setup ready for today, I'd be able to show you the two bongo
those
controllers.
With the drums, right?
The bongo controllers.
I remember those.
I've got on my shelf behind me. And I remember doing the endurance where you'd play every single song in a row, and Don't Stop Me Now by Queen on Donkey Konga was just so fun. I love it so much.
Yeah. I never boast or anything like that, but I'm a beast at that game. There's something about it. I'm just like a beast. I just destroy it. I think I remember the first time I played it at your house, Swinny. I was just destroying it. It was ridiculous. Like, and then the other one I just wanted to quickly shout out before we move on is the Mario versus Donkey Kong series.
They're great.
Yeah, like, just a very, like, really underrated series. Like, I know that people give it a lot of love. Like, enthusiasts like us, I guess. But yeah, it's still just never as connected with people.
It's kind of built on the legacy of Donkey Kong 94.
100% it is. No, 100% it is. I would classify it as almost like a continuation of that series. So yeah, another really cool series. Like there's a lot of cool Donkey Kong games out there. And I would love to own a Donkey Kong arcade cabinet one day. Like I feel like that would be probably my number one arcade that I'd want to get, like as a physical piece. I just think it'd be really cool. All right, well, let's move on to our finale of the Donkey Kong Country series segments. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. So we've been at this for 12 months now.
It's wild.
Because I should have had it in front of me, but when was the first time that we spoke about it on the potty? Was it like episode 3 or I don't know? It was like really early days.
All I know is other podcasts and like YouTube channels will probably cover this in like a month, and we took 12 months to do it.
Well, we're learning, you know. This is just a little indie podcast, so you know, don't put too much pressure on us. So yes, we have covered the other 4 games in the Donkey Kong Country series, and now this is our retrospective of the 5th and final at this stage console entry, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze.
So I'll just clarify, our first the retrospective started in episode 5, which was in the 16th of August last year.
Oh wow. Okay, wow, that's
Nearly 12 months.
That's kind of crazy, dude. That's kind of crazy. And it's been awesome to go back and play these games. Like just as the series as a whole, it's just absolutely incredible. Definitely no bad games in the bunch. But certainly some probably would reach heights greater than others. So Mike, let's we all have the mandate. Play this game, finish it. It's not too long. 11. I think I finished it in 9 hours or something like that. And went back and played a bit more of it. We'll cover that a little bit later. You know, we all take the podcast pretty seriously. You know, massive growth on the channel, massive growth in the, you know, we could probably have to bloody put a Patreon up. I'm assuming we'll have a couple hundred Patreons straight away. Yep. You know, you've had a lot of gaming this week. Obviously it's a big priority. So where'd you get up to in this game? Finished it, of course. Did you 100% it?
No, I did not 100% it. No, I didn't. Yeah, I wanted to. Obviously, you know, it was my goal to 100% this game, but unfortunately, couldn't quite do it this week. Yeah.
Couldn't quite. Okay, chose not to.
No,
yeah.
I was a little way off finishing it this week.
So where'd you get up to?
It was a really good experience. I have to admit, it was a fantastic experience while I played it this week. Yeah, I'm glad I did. It was a very enjoyable, thoroughly fun experience. Getting to the end of World 1.
Oh man,
that's so bad. That's so bad.
Honestly, I got stuck.
It's a hard game.
No, but I got stuck like, okay, this is going to sound really stupid, and might as well get me out of the way so we can talk about it properly between mostly you two. Super enjoyable experience, and then I get to the part where you have to swing off a vine, and then for whatever reason, I can't jump off it. Like, I just keep dropping straight down. And I tried everything, and I'm like, what am I supposed to press? How dumb can I be at this game?
But when you're holding onto a vine in this game in Returns, you just hold across and press A, and it's like it's like a canned distance that you always travel it's like an automatic jump when you jump off the vines.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
in any case, I'm needed, but I will eventually.
You are the reason why they created funky mode in the Switch version, which Swinny and I did not touch. Classic mode, of course.
So to do it this game proper justice, I think you two being fans of the series, having played all of the previous ones, I think you 100%ed most of the games, if not all of them.
No, not me. Swinny, maybe.
So I've definitely 100% the original SNES trilogy. I didn't for Returns, but just to clarify, so I played this on the Wii U. So there was no funky mode on the Wii U anyway. So I played this on the Wii U. You both played on the Switch, is that correct?
Yes.
I
used DK though. I didn't use funky.
Yeah. No, just clarifying. So we kind of have a gauge of if there's any differences there. We kind of know that, you know, the Wii U and Switch and whatever. But yeah, I completed the game. I definitely did 100% it. It's kind of similar to Donkey Kong Country Returns in the fact that I was just happy to just play through and just experience it that way. So.
Yeah, I'm just actually checking what percentage I got. You know, like we'll cover an overall thought shortly. Really enjoyed the game. it was kind of weird because I felt like just like a quick overalls comment. I actually watched a few YouTube videos just to see what the special levels look like. And I think I would actually like them the most. Yeah, just checking the percentage. I was like 68% at the end of the game. I don't know what you landed on, Swinny.
Well, I was skipping all the bonus
Ah,
stuff
okay.
anyway.
No,
so,
fair enough.
Yeah.
I wasn't playing specifically to find everything. I was just playing through it and then went back and played a little bit more. I have to say, like, getting all the secrets, it's bloody hard in this game, man.
Well, do we just want to talk about difficulty now?
Yeah. Let's go into it. Yeah.
So let me finish this whole thing before you jump in.
Mm-hmm.
This game had a much better difficulty curve for me than Donkey Kong Country Returns. So if you think back, if you remember, when Donkey Kong Country Returns, I felt that the first 80% of the game was like really kind of easy, and then the hard part just came right at the end. There was no real curve for me, whereas this was much better. But overall, this is a much more difficult game than Returns. So I don't blame you, Mike, for struggling with this game at all, because it kind of even like World 2, World 3, that stuff ramps up pretty quickly. But to me, it is a better curve.
I think I got to try Donkey Kong Country Returns on the Wii, because I think that Donkey Kong Country Returns was harder than this game. So I do wonder if like the 30 FPS or just the differences with the 3DS game and the more cramped, controls like had an influence. And I don't think it's like a huge difference. And I agree with your overall assessment, Swinny, that Returns has a ridiculous like curve. Like it's stupid the way it goes. Like I was getting through it pretty comfortably, and then the end was ridiculous. Whereas this, the way I'll just say, I don't think it's like super hard or anything like that. It's just I wouldn't get through like unscathed like in a Mario game. Like I could go for a long run without dying in a Mario platformer. Whereas this, a lot of times I'd be dying and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm kind of learning the level as I die as well. So,
well, a lot of those deaths for me were not because of my skill. Honestly, I actually.
What are you blaming it on?
I should say as well, look at this. I got this cool Donkey Kong Country shirt. I forgot to say it in the last segment.
Because I definitely there's levels where I'm like, oh man, I need to execute this better. I actually really struggle with this game. I hated this game at first. I thought the first half of the game was terrible.
Wow.
You can't blame me all that much for getting stuck.
There's like the amount of times when I would just like, to me, this game took the worst aspects of the first Donkey Kong Country Returns, because this is essentially like those two games. I treat them almost as separate games from the original trilogy. They play completely different. To me, it takes some of the worst aspects that I didn't like from Returns and doubles down on them. So my hatred for the way that the character mechanics work, and that you swap, and then you've got a double jump or a hover, and then you don't have it when you don't have or Dixie or whatever.
Yeah,
they doubled down on that, which is what I didn't like from Returns. And just like, we'll get to the bosses. The bosses is one of the biggest issues I have with this game.
I want to chat about the bosses, dude. Yeah, I want to chat about the bosses.
Yeah. But to me, it's like a lot of the time, it's just something about the controls just weren't gelling with me. But a lot of those deaths it's because I was expecting to hover in the air. And I'm like, for whatever reason, I couldn't get used to the fact that you're constantly changing what the jumping mechanics are. Yeah. And because it's so different now, because they added these extra characters to it, like I avoided Cranky at all costs until the last boss.
So, but Cranky's kind of the best character, but so can we just talk about the characters, because we keep touching on it. We've got Diddy Kong, Dixie Kong, Cranky Kong. Diddy has like a hover that kind of like doesn't elevate, but just like keeps you smooth and go down a bit. Whereas Dixie has the flutter jump type thing where it lifts you up a bit more and then hovers. And then Cranky, it's more the pogo stick where you can get that really bouncy, almost second jump, for lack of the better word.
Yeah, it's very DuckTales-y.
Yeah, 100%. DuckTales is, the best way to describe it. So, and all of them are different mechanics. So you basically got like 4 movement mechanics depending on what you're doing. Like, and honestly, I just am random. So whenever I get to the barrels, I just throw them. I don't care who I get as a character, and I just deal with it. Like, that's the kind of way that I played it.
I did learn that, because you can't, when you pick up barrels in this game, you can't put them back down. So if I went to pick it up, I'm like,
I know, I hated that.
Yeah. But what I did like is, because it just sometimes it'll just be one character and you can't choose anything else, but other times it'll rotate. And what's good is you can actually ground pound to stop it and then change it to anything if you don't want to like time it. But I just found that Cranky was just, to me, being able to hover, whether or not it's like the more vertical one with Dixie or Diddy, like that was what I wanted. And I was constantly playing through levels with that mentality. And then when I would, essentially, it's the biggest issue, and the same with returns, is when I would restart at a checkpoint and then
you don't have it,
automatically assume that I'm going to be able to hover, and then I just fall in a gap.
It's funny, in my short period of playing, that's exactly what I experienced as well, and it's strangely frustrating.
And that's why, to me, like if they had done something a bit different there, it would have been much more appreciated for me. But the other deaths that I was talking about are, for some reason, the levels, they're beautiful in this game, right? But there's so much going on that there's a lot of times when I thought there was a platform and I went to jump on it, and it was actually part of the background. And I probably died like 10 times in different situations where I thought I could actually land on something. Not in every level. There's certain levels where I'm like, oh, well, I'm dead, I guess. So that's not a platform, you know?
I must admit, there's probably only maybe 2 times that I can recall that happened to me. So it's not like, I could see it happening.
It's not a huge issue.
Yeah. But just quickly touching on the controls, because for me, I actually, like, to be fair, I did have issues with the controls. And then I don't know if this was the same as the Wii U, but you could swap the orientation of the controls. So you can't, I actually really wanted to map the controls how I wanted them. You can't do that. At least on the Switch version, you can go with the kind of classic or, original, whatever they call it, and an alternative control mode. So basically just flips around the roll and the ground pound and the grab from like the trigger like bumpers to the X and Y buttons. And to me, that felt way more natural. And I didn't have issues with the controls after that.
So I was playing with the Wii U Pro controller.
Yep.
And just I was making notes as I was playing, and in caps, I'm like, why the fuck can't they let me use the D-pad on this thing?
Oh, you can't use the D-pad?
Not on the Wii U Pro controller.
Oh, shit. So you can on the Switch.
I had to use the analog stick, and it's not horrible.
That's bad. That's bad.
And dude. I'm like, it doesn't serve any other purpose. Why would you not allow the person to use it?
Yeah.
But just like on the control, the only other thing with the control is, and I got used to it eventually, but a lot of the time I would expect when you go to roll, a big part of this game is you're rolling and you can jump because you can jump in the air after a roll and stuff like that. And a lot of you can't like. It takes a while before you can adjust back from a roll. So often I would overshoot where I was going for. So I just didn't like the roll mechanic as much. But look, anything is better than using the bloody motion controls on the returns for me. So like in general, I was happier from the control step.
Yeah, and just quickly on the roll, I did find sometimes I was trying to roll and it didn't trigger. And I think the way it's probably on me. It's not saying that it was coded incorrectly, but from a game feel perspective, it didn't feel quite right. Like that's the biggest thing I didn't like about the controls. The initiation of the roll itself felt a bit like you had to really have a bit of forward momentum before you could roll. And then sometimes I didn't really like, it just didn't feel right to me, like that aspect of it. So I don't know. Do you want to talk about some levels or the thoughts on levels and stuff let's
like
talk
that?
about something nice, like the levels, graphics and stuff, and then we'll loop back to the bosses because I've got things to say.
Well, I've got a lot of my notes. There's a bit of a mixed thing, but levels, look, as I said, this is the exact opposite of DKC Returns for me. So with that game, I love the first 60% of the levels, and then the last part, I remember saying they felt like they were made by a drunk intern. For me, it's almost the opposite. Like I didn't like the first half of the game, but as soon as you hit level 4, and I'm like, these are the levels I was wanting to play. I really like, especially level 4 and 6. I thought pretty much all the levels except the second to last one.
I mean, World 4 and 6, or are you saying 4 and
World
4, 6?
4 and World 6.
Okay, yeah, cool.
So World 6, which is the last level, I thought had easily the best stages. I love them, with the exception of the last one, which is a Rambi level. Let me just talk about Rambi for 1 second.
Yeah. And we should just say about the animal buddies in general, right? Like, it's been a big feature of the games, but in this game, it only has Rambi.
Yeah, which is a bit disappointing. But I was really struggling with Rambi throughout all the levels that he's in. and I got stuck on the last level. So last level before the last boss, which there's a part where lava's chasing you, and I'm like, I just could not beat it. I'm like, what is going on? And you know what it was? I was getting so frustrated. I lost like 30 lives. It's because I didn't realize you can continuously run by mashing the button.
Yeah. I just mashed the
And when
the
I
trigger.
learned that, I'm like, oh, now it's easy. No,
Yeah.
So that's on me. I'm not going to say that's
Well-
like there was a way, but the game honestly didn't feel like it taught me that.
I have to
know?
say with this game, and like I think we'll actually disagree about this game ultimately, but just in terms of overall thoughts, it just felt like it wasn't play tested or they responded to the play testing. Because I think you and I are like decently skilled players at platformers and games in general. And I just felt like the game at times didn't feel right. Like that's one thing about Nintendo. Normally I would always say their games have feel very refined, the way that they feel, and you move the character and what you expect the character to do based on what you're doing. And this game, there was so many times I had the same experience as you where I'm like, oh, I'm doing this wrong, but I feel like the way I'm doing it should be the way it should be done. Like mashing, because I worked out the mashing thing pretty early on, but I'm like, it just feels wrong. Like with Rambi to be, oh, I have to keep on mashing the button to run faster. It's like,
Yeah,
why?
I thought you had to time to repress it
Yeah.
when he was slowing down again, and I just found I wasn't able to survive. And I'm like, then I actually had to, I looked it up. First time I looked up anything about these games, like
That's
I just looked up
awesome.
someone doing it. I saw them continuously running.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, well, then I just figured out, okay, well, I keep mashing it. But look, I love, once again, I love the minecart levels. There's not that many in this one, but I love them. Retro have a real knack for creating these cool environmental set pieces. And
Yes.
you see it
Yes.
in all the levels. Honestly, like nearly every level in the game is like, quick run, everything's collapsing. So I think they rely on it a bit too much sometimes. Sometimes you like, because the original Donkey Country games weren't like that. There were some levels where we definitely had to escape or
Yeah.
run, but you felt like you had more time to actually kind of approach each area. But I mean, it looks great. The levels look amazing. So
Yeah, look, and you know, I've shared my thoughts on the minecart levels in the past in our retrospectives. I'm not a big fan of the minecart levels. I totally understand they're iconic. I don't think it's as bad as like, you know, how the turbo tunnels are iconic for Battletoads. It's really more infamous than, you know, famous. But I'm not a huge fan of the minecart levels anyway in the Donkey Kong Country series. To me, these are probably some of the best ones. Same with Returns. But I'm just not a big fan of it. I actually like the rocket levels more than the minecart levels.
I thought the rocket levels were really good in this.
Yeah, I think that to me was such a cool addition, and the way that they've done it. That's what I actually like about it. Just on the levels itself, totally agree with your thought about World 6. It's really weird in a video game where the ending is better than the beginning. And I don't share the view. Like for me personally, I think all the levels are very great and very good standard of levels. It's just that World 6 is clearly the best world. And normally with a game, you're just like, well, most people won't get up to the end of a game. That's just how games work, right? Like look at Mike, right? So
I'm still going to play it.
No, I doubt it. But
You'll see.
I'm just the realistic version of you on your shoulders. But with World 6, it's like, it feels like they put a lot of love. And I don't know if you noticed, Swinny, but it is like an homage to Donkey Kong Country Returns.
It is.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I know that these games aren't like this, and if it's like this in the extra levels that I haven't seen in either game, I do wish there was more callbacks to the original trilogy, but I know that's not what this is. You know, this isn't a nostalgia fest. This is its own stuff. But yeah, World 6 was great. Like Forest Folly was just, to me, my favorite level in the game. That was
What number was that?
I'm not sure exactly.
Okay.
I think it was like probably like 6-4 or something. It was basically all about, it was a simple idea of you're bouncing off things and holding onto grass, and then they swing around, and then you launch from, you know, you bounce off them again. It just felt right to me. And Cliff Side Slide, which is that black and white
that's
level.
such a cool level. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. It has just awesome soundtrack. But I actually really love the water levels in this game. I don't love specifically the way the water controls work, but I love the levels.
So on the controls, I use D-pad for the entire game except the water levels. I switched naturally back to analog to control it better. For me, just like the 3 levels I want to shout out, I'll go to World 4 in a second, but 5-4, so World 5 Level 4, Jelly Jamboree. Don't know if you remember that.
I've got that in my list,
Yeah, I love that one. I love the fact that you're like, you know, it's kind of pure Nintendo. Here's a mechanic. We play around with it in the level. You need to play around with it to finish the level, and then we never come back to it ever again in any other level. Like, it's just the stuff I love in platformers, and it's just such a fun, bouncy level, like literally and figuratively. And then the other two I just wanted to shout out, also in World 4. I mean, World 6, I almost love all the levels in that. Share kind of your same thoughts around the last one, 6-8. But 4-3, which is a Miss Abyss, it's the one with a like beautiful atmospheric silhouetting. You're going in and out. It's just visually a treat and just a real fun level. And then the very next level as well, I rate 8, so that's 4-4, where you've got this crazy octopus chasing you throughout the level. Just like such a cool level. I really enjoyed those ones. World 4 was really a highlight for me as well.
Yeah, honestly, once I was not having fun playing this game. Honestly, I was struggling. I'm like, I play through one world a night, and I'm like, and then when I got to World 4, I'm like, this is what I was waiting for. And it's just a personal thing, you know. A lot of people probably love the levels, but and then, you know, it's World 5 was Soul and World 6 just killed it. So I'm like, okay, this is stuff that I wanted, and kind of really saved the game for me. And I don't really have any levels I hated, with the exception of maybe the last level that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But I think my hate came from my experience once I learned Rambi could run. That's fine.
Yeah.
So I don't hate any levels. Just it was kind of, to me, like Returns was so impressive to me with the level design that a lot of this felt kind of just like more of the same until we got to those later levels.
It definitely didn't use as much of the 2.5D nature of like going in the foreground, background as much. It used it as set pieces, but it wasn't like integral to the design of it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and I feel like Returns did more of that. For me personally, I definitely think this had better levels overall than Returns, and yeah, like overall, like we'll get onto it when we talk about the rankings of the games, but yeah, like for me, I didn't feel like there was any bad levels. I do get where you're coming from. Like even when I looked back, especially more so the first half of the game, I didn't feel like there were like heaps of standout levels, but I just thought they were very decent Donkey Kong Country levels.
Yeah, the level that's playing in our footage at the moment, which is like the sawmill minecart level, I thought was actually really cool as well, because you're on a piece of wood that's been cut off by the sawmill and in a boat and go underwater. I think they did some really unique stuff there.
Oh, it's very creative, the game. It's very cool. And then I want to touch on, let's get all the good stuff. Graphics, like just shortly, like amazing in my view. Like this is the best by far looking. And you know I'm always talking about remakes. I'm one of those idiots that was happy to buy things again. Like if they remade the trilogy in this style, far out, man. That's
the exact thought I had. I would just love for them to do that. I don't know. At some point that would make sense, but I don't know why, you know. Yeah,
I don't know if they ever will, just because of Nintendo being weird and also Rare. I don't know the rights to it, how it actually works. I mean, like they have re-released the game, so maybe it's totally fine. I just don't know. I don't know how those things work, because you can have a publishing deal for a game, but that doesn't mean you necessarily have full rights to do anything with it, depending on how the contracts were drafted. But yeah, I would love that. Like I would pay a lot of money to play it in this style. And then the music, just nothing stood out to me. I don't know how you felt about it.
There were some standouts. To me, this was a massive improvement over Returns. But Returns had a right soundtrack. Yeah. But it's kind of like off the back of 3 of the best soundtracks, especially in Donkey Kong 1 and 2, the best soundtracks of all time for me. It was a bit like, but they got David Wise back to help out with the music in this as well, which is great. Still, I don't think it comes close to those first 2 games, but I love Homecoming Hijinks, or it's also called Snowman's Island theme. So that's the theme playing on Cliffside Slide. I think that song is amazing. There's lots of great music, but also it's got a really nice version of Aquatic Ambience, which is always great to hear.
It does. I like that little throwback. That was pretty cool. Yeah, it actually made me think. I didn't really think the music was that outstanding. It was like just a kind of serviceable for me. Like, you know, and it's a very high bar, to be fair, because Donkey Kong Country as a series for me has some of the best video game music ever. Like I literally listen to the soundtrack every now and then, just in the background on Spotify. So
I think it's good. I think it's good.
Okay, fair enough. All right, well, let's get into the bosses and then overall thoughts. You want to start? You want to open the batting?
Yeah, so I hated most of the bosses, but I actually
I love the way you frame it.
They're sick. So most I actually like two of them, so technically most.
Okay.
But they all suffer from the same problem. They just drag on.
Yes, thank you.
Fucking long.
They're boring.
You miss one attempt to hit the dude because basically the way they all work is you have to hit the enemy generally 3 times, then move on to the next phase, and there's 3 phases. So they're all kind of structured the same way. You could hit them twice and miss the third hit, and you've got to go through the entire phase of attacks. Even if they're easy to dodge, you've just got to go through the motions each time. Unlike a lot of other games where they give you multiple ways to, and some of the bosses you can in this, but there's usually, opportunities to attack the boss at any point. It's just more difficult maybe, during their attacks phases and stuff. Whereas there's some bosses where you just can't do anything to them until they've gone through all their phases again. It just drags on and on and on.
My note was kind of boring to get through at times if you don't concentrate. Like, I kind of got stuck on boss 2 or 3. I can't recall now. More so I found it boring. I was just like, I couldn't be bothered doing this. Like,
was it the monkeys or the seal?
No, it wasn't. It was the one after that.
The guy that had the big hammer.
The owl or something like that, I think.
Oh, the owl, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that was 2 or 3, but man, it was just, I was just bored. I was just like, oh my God, I don't want to do this whole thing again. My note was a bit different to yours. I didn't think they were, I feel like it's such a waste of creativity, the bosses. I feel like, and this is very arrogant what I'm going to say, is I genuinely feel like, can someone put me in charge of how these boss sequences work? Give me how it's structured right now and let me tune it, right? Because I actually think the bones of it are so solid. Like, in a way, I think the bones of it are literally the best bosses in the entire series, but the way they've executed it is so dumb. Like, their sequences take way too long. Like, maybe you do it in such a way that the first time round it's elaborate, and then every time you replay it, it changes the way it works to being quicker. It's just too fucking long, each fucking sequence. Drives me nuts.
It's like they go, okay, you have a chance to look at one boss from the original trilogy. Okay, let's look at K. Rool 1. The boss that just... And they go, let's base every boss in this game off that beleaguered boss, but that's a last boss.
But even that I didn't find as frustrating, actually. I get what you're saying, and it is like that. It's just, you perfectly articulate it. Each sequence where it goes through the phase takes way too long, and you can't do anything to speed it up. And it's just like, why have they done it like this? Have they actually freaking played it? It seemed bizarre to me.
I actually... Although the controls are a little iffy, I liked the water boss, actually. I thought that was one of the coolest bosses. And I actually liked the last boss, but that third phase was so frustrating. Because I had no issue getting up to the third phase of the last boss. And then suddenly, basically you had to time to land on him during certain sequences, and every other time you can't do anything to him. It's like just getting the timing on that. That's why I busted out Cranky Kong for that boss, because you could
do bigger bounces.
You could bounce down. You could basically jump over him and land on him quicker.
Yeah.
Because I just couldn't get used to the timing of it running underneath me.
Yeah.
And so just to get through that, I'm like, oh my God, now I have to go through 4 separate attack patterns that go forever, that are really pretty easy once you know them.
Yeah.
Compared to the last boss of Donkey Kong Country Returns, where the attacks were really hard to dodge until you learnt the weird tricks. That was really difficult. Yeah, but I liked the boss. I actually liked it much more. It's just that third phase just dragged on for so long.
Yeah, it's I can't just emphasize it enough. It's so disappointing in a way, because I genuinely...
Sorry, we're looking at the owl on the screen now.
Yeah.
Oh my God, now I know that what you're saying. It's like, it just takes so long.
It's just boring. It's just because these attacks are not hard to dodge. And then some attacks are not that easy to dodge. Like this one, sorry for the audio listeners. Basically, the enemies are coming down and you just have to roll at the right time. But it's just, like I said, it feels like so wasted promise or premise. Like they
but
could have
there's
been
so many-
good. They really could have been good bosses. They could have. I genuinely believe, with very minimal tweaks, these could have been the best bosses in the entire series, and would have been one of the standout features of this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a shame. And then just like related, like bosses / enemies, I agree with you. I respect them that they pretty much didn't do anything with the Kremlins and I don't know what the legal sort of deal with that is. Like, I don't know if Rare owns some of that or how that works, because it seems weird that they don't reference anything with it. But ultimately, like the Snowmads, I think that's what they're called.
Yeah.
They're just not like, I don't know, it just didn't appeal to me. Like when I got to the final boss, it was just like, oh, okay, this is the final boss. Like it didn't feel like a big baddie or anything like that.
Yeah. It didn't feel very epic, but
Yeah.
oh, well, look, I still like the boss more than the stupid, annoying one of the first one.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Cool. Was there anything else you want to cover, or do you want to get into just like, given that we've done a retro on all 5 games, where we think they rank?
I guess, look, I'll just give my overall thoughts on the game. So, as I said, like I really struggled with this game to enjoy. I was not having fun until I hit those later worlds, and then I started to say, hey, this game is fun, but unfortunately, I can't avoid the fact that I just didn't like a lot of what they did. So yeah, if we're talking about rankings, well,
maybe I'll just do my overalls then, since you did. It's just a very flawed game, but I really enjoyed it, and I actually think I'll go back and try to get more of the secret levels. You should check out some of the secret levels. They look really, really fun from a platforming perspective. And there's, I think, about 3 secret levels for every world. So it's quite a lot extra.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, they look actually really, really cool. Like they look very, very challenging. And I'm not saying the game's easy, but it just looked like the kind of levels I would like to play and try to, get challenged by and sort of, see where I land on it. So yeah, like let's talk about how we rank these games. And of course,
you've got the visual. You're like, I'm not going to do a visual, and then he's done a visual.
I kept them pretty simple though this time. Let's get through this quickly, yeah. So
yeah.
Like let's be real. Come on, like Donkey Kong Country 2 is number 1, yeah. We're not even like
no.
that,
I'm ranking different to you.
Far out. Oh, what, we have our own rankings.
Like
You're the one that's done this stupid thing. I'm just like, we'll just list our 5 rankings. That's it.
Oh, so you got to have your own, like Swinny. Is this what we're saying?
I'm not. Donkey Kong Country 2 is not my favorite Donkey Kong. Why are you surprised by that?
I was just trying. No, see. Okay, listeners.
We're not doing a tier list, man.
listeners, big wiggers out there. This guy, like, he's played the biggest trick of all, like with Skyrim and everything like that. I thought he was being genuine with Game of Some Other Year. I won't spoil it for those that haven't watched it, but now I'm very conscious of your tricks, so I have my own little tricks as well. So I was just trying to force Donkey Kong Country 2 to be.
The way that you've listed it now, which is Donkey Kong Country 3 as top, Donkey Kong Country 2.
I've accidentally ranked it the way you've wanted to rank it.
Donkey Kong Country, Donkey Kong Country Returns, and at the bottom, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is my ranking.
That's funny, man.
Did you literally rank it exactly like that?
That's my ranking.
By accident. When I looked at it, I thought, oh, he's going to rank it like this.
Yeah, that's my rank. And Tropical Freeze ended up like redeeming itself, but to me, Returns was just much better. I had much more fun. I would love to play Returns with a normal control scheme. I reckon I'd love that game even more.
Yeah, so I put Donkey Kong Country last.
You're a hater. You're a hater of that game.
I just think it's like I look. How often do I say this? I think you have a bit of nostalgia goggles on that game. I think the way it plays
that game's way better than the new games for me. So
no, but that's your opinion, right?
I know. It's not goggles. It's truth.
Oh, but like you grew up playing, I didn't, and I had a fresh take on it, so I'll just leave it there. So that's clearly the worst by any objective measure. I put Returns actually like 4th.
Ahead of it.
Yeah, I still like that more than Donkey Kong Country. And then like these 3 are all like pretty tight. Like I put, Tropical Freeze ahead of Returns, but maybe it's just because I played it on the 3DS. I do actually think I want to try it on the Wii. And then, yeah, like these 2 games are just clearly like the better games, Donkey Kong Country 2 and 3. I actually like have to say 3 was like over here if it was sort of like, you know, how close it is to Donkey Kong Country 2. But having played the whole thing, and I do want to go back and play more of the secrets, that game is very, very cool. Like, and I do see where you're coming from a lot more. I was very much a stan for Donkey Kong Country 2, but Donkey Kong Country 3 is a great game. I just, yeah, like, what's his name? I've even forgotten what the bloody baby's name is.
Kitty Kong.
Kitty Kong. I just hate Kitty Kong as a protagonist.
And as I said, you didn't use his coolest move. You didn't know about it. I don't blame you. They didn't tell you about it. He bounces on the water.
Yeah, I just like, but I don't care about that. Like, I wish maybe I'll play a mod version where it's Donkey Kong that you're playing as.
Nah, you got to use the cool tech. That's why.
No, I'm saying I can use the cool tech, but I just want the character model to be different. I don't know. It's like when people don't like Baby Mario and Yoshi's Island, you know, like I don't mind that, but yeah, I get that people don't like that. So, what do you mean grow up? You grow up.
I don't like the model. I'm going to mod it to make another.
I'm just kind of joking about that, of course. But yeah, look, like it does show that these two games, Donkey Kong Country 3 and 2, are the clear standouts, I think, of the series. And yeah, the new ones are decent. Like, but I kind of put them all in the same bucket. Like, I could pretty much have Tropical Freeze Returns or Donkey Kong Country in different orders depending on the day. But certainly 2 and 3 are like locked in that order. So yeah, no, it was actually really cool fun playing through all of them.
Hang on. Whoa.
Well, you're not doing a ranking. You have the right to do a ranking.
No, I know. I don't get to do a ranking. I have absolutely no say in any of this. But
yeah,
we need a clear winner. You can't just have.
No, we don't.
Yes, you do.
Well, of course he's going to say Donkey Kong Country 2 overall.
Yeah, but he's saying 3. So how are we going to decide?
That's his personal favorite. But I think if we had to say what's Bigwig's official number 1 Donkey Kong Country game, I think it would be number 2, right, Swinny?
I would say let's wait for the Game of Summer the 1995 to talk about Donkey Kong Country 2 again.
So maybe we can put a segment on a little hold, and when I play both 2 and 3, I can give my verdict and decide whether 2 or 3 is the winner.
Yep, I'm sure when the 10th Donkey Kong Country game comes out, you would do that.
Well, I gotta play the 1995 one, so. I think I'll probably play.
You're not going to play any of these games. Well, you have to play 2. You have to play 2 now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, let's get into our final feature, Swinny.
Oh, we're doing this, are we? All right, cool. So I played through this week the new DLC for GreedFall called the Vespe Conspiracy. So I talked a little bit about it last week. So this is bundled in with if you buy the new gold version of GreedFall. But it can be purchased separately for about $9 to $10 Australian, depending on if you're on Xbox, for instance. If you're a Game Pass Ultimate subscriber, you get a little bit cheaper and stuff like that. I believe it's Spider's first DLC pack that they've done, at least for any of the games that I've played of theirs. So, you know, I definitely, Technomancer didn't get any DLC packs or Bound by Flame or anything like that. So in terms of, I guess, what this DLC is, so the story... I'm not going to get into the story, but I'll just say what I guess kicks it off with a member of the Vespe family arriving in Tifredi, so the island the game's set on. And the Vespes are an infamous rival family that are also part of the merchant congregation that, like the Desades, and who's the main character, Desade. So basically, you go to meet this new character, Aurelia de Vespe, and it kicks off this big conspiracy storyline involving your cousin and all these other stuff. So I was able to access the quest with my save that was just before the point of no return. So basically, I believe you can probably access this. It makes sense. You can probably access this anytime after you've kind of probably done the initial stuff on Tifredi, because the storyline just feels like it could be placed at any point. And it ties in the main narrative thread, but more of a side story, which makes sense because obviously none of this stuff happened when you played through it originally. But this DLC is really, it's not much to it, honestly. It's pretty short. We talk about the usage of the term DLC versus expansion. This is definitely what I'd call a DLC. It's like, to me, it was like 2 to 3 hours.
Oh,
it was
wow.
very short. There's a new area called the Flaming Blood, I think it is. I've got it in my notes somewhere. But yeah, basically you get this new area. It's not too big. It's pretty similar to other areas in GreedFall. And it's not that much to do in it. Like, you get some side quests, but it's pretty light in content, honestly. And so I was a little disappointed in that. I was thinking it was going to be something more substantial. Now, it's pretty cheap. So I was going to
say it's only $10, right?
Yeah, I know.
But that's not like. Can I just challenge
I
you both
know.
like that. DLC, like for the most part, is the worst value. It's so insane bad value.
Oh yeah, generally speaking, it's horrible value. Especially look at Forza. You pay like $10 for one car. Okay, I'm exaggerating, but it's close.
Yeah, and you compare it to like actually getting the game. It's crazy.
So, yeah, I don't know what you challenged me on that because I hadn't even said my thoughts around any of that stuff yet. But basically, this is a pretty small piece of content, and the reason I was expecting more was because it's been a while since, like, GreedFall came out in like September 2019. Now, I know that they probably, it's not like they've been working on this small piece of content since then, but it felt like a bigger thing from what they were really pushing. You do get cool, unique weapons. Unfortunately, I couldn't actually use any of them because my character is spec'd up completely magic, so I didn't even have the attributes to equip them. But for people that are, using different melee builds and stuff like that, then there's some cool stuff there. But also, half the DLC kind of takes place in existing locations, which makes sense for the storyline. But I'm like, just give me more stuff to do in this new area. There just wasn't that much to do. So look, overall, it's not bad. It's more GreedFall. So if you're obsessed with the game, you'll likely enjoy it. I love GreedFall, but I'm not obsessed with it. So it's like, to me, I don't think it's worth $10. I'd say that this is probably a good $5 purchase for just a little bit more content. Honestly, my favorite thing was I was happy to have more lore and background to the characters and the different families in GreedFall. That's actually what I found really interesting, but I just would have liked a more substantial piece of content.
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
And you were playing this on Series X, yeah?
I was playing through this on Series X. I will be playing through it on PC when I get to a bit later in my playthrough on PC. So
yeah, and so that had the bump up with the next gen update, or am I getting confused?
Yeah, no. So I was playing 60 FPS. It's a little disappointing that it had the whole performance or fidelity mode.
Yeah.
To me, it's like I just don't understand why this game probably couldn't run at 60 in either. But
okay.
Yeah, but no, it was nice to play it at 60, I will say.
It has become a bit of a cop-out for this generation, hasn't it? That every game is having basically a 60 frames per second mode or a 4K mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we generally have to wait another generation for 4K 60. It's kind of like, shit, okay, that's...
I mean, it is the start of... Well, the problem is it's the start of the generation, which means on one hand, games aren't as optimized. So, okay, there's some room for improvement. But on the other hand, games are not as crazy yet on this generation.
That's
so
the thing,
they're going to become even worse, and I think they're going to be even more power hungry as the generation progresses. So I don't know. It's, next generation, hopefully. This game looks really freaking good, though. I actually... I'm very compelled to get into it. My only thing is, how long is it going to take? Is it a big game, Swinny? How many hours do I need to sink into this? Because this looks like right up my alley as well as an RPG.
It's not a short game, but I wouldn't say it's not like a Witcher 3 length or anything like that. So it's depends if you want to do everything, then it's going to take a bit of time. If you kind of just want to play through the story, then it's not going to be too long.
I just checked Godfall on how long to beat. No, I'm just joking around. So GreedFall is 22 hours for the main story. That's on how long to beat.
Pretty short.
And 51 for completionists. So
how much is The Witcher 3 for the main story?
That's
just for the story.
Crazy,
just for the story.
Story's for like 50 hours.
50 hours and then 170 for completionists.
Whoa. Because see, that's the thing with The Witcher. I don't know. I'm going to fall into the same trap with this. I can never play these games just for completion.
We don't need to. I mean, you play the game to enjoy it. If you enjoy what you're doing,
but I find naturally, because I'm a hoarder by nature, I collect things. I have to look at everything. I got to explore everything. I got to go through every single bloody conversation that you can possibly have. I got to min-max all the shit.
Are you saying you're like Sting and you don't like to go to completion too quickly? You just like to, carry it on for a bit of time?
Such a mic joke to make.
I know.
It's tantric fall. That's what
it actually, like the way that the joke, it's a perfect mic joke because the joke doesn't work in any other way. So it's not really even a joke. All right. So does it give the Swinny stamp of approval? GreedFall expansion?
I mean, can I give it a half stamp, like a bit of a
soft stamp? A soft stamp.
You can't see all the other parts of it because I half-assed it.
Yeah, you basically didn't ink it up well enough and just stamped a little bit of it.
Is there not an area in the game called Smallwood?
No.
Yeah, there is.
Is
It
there?
showed
I
it
don't
just
know.
before.
Okay,
There's an
maybe
area
there
called
is. I
Smallwood.
don't-
Would you give it?
Sorry, small as in a small wood. Yes,
Yeah.
there is a place called
Would you give this
Smallwood.
game? Would you give this DLC a small wood or a large wood
A
Give this-
mic-sized wood.
I'd give
or a
this a wood.
mic-sized wood, which
I'd
is
give this a
above
wood.
large wood?
I'd
Very
give this
small,
a wood,
very small.
A woodfall. A woodfall. There we
A
go.
woodfall.
All right. Well, I'm going to rescue this while we still have legs. All right. Well, thanks for tuning into the show. Next week, it will be our 1 year crazy anniversary for Big Week in Gaming. Hopefully,
Yeah.
well, no, it will be with new branding.
It
Mike
will
is
be-
going to
there will be
deliver.
new branding.
New branding,
Yes.
new logo.
Yeah.
Swinny face reveal. It's all happening.
Oh,
next
it's all
week.
happening.
It's going to be
Yeah.
a big show. And my, or maybe Swinny's as well, I'm not sure, impressions of Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword and
HD.
HD. Not that it said it in the thing. And as
Okay,
always, if you want to follow us on socials, search for Big Wig Pod. That's BIGWIGPOD. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Bye bye for
Adios.
now.